recognized Temple of Excellence.
The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade. Now at episode 123. 123, guys, and I am your host, Ray Russell, back for the WrestleMania IV review, part 2. That's right, we continue on down the path that is WrestleMania IV. Lots of fun last time out, and I appreciate everybody giving us a week off to prepare for the second part of this big review. There's a lot more than just pressing the record button that goes into these shows, guys, and I appreciate everyone's support as we prepared to do it all over again. Lots of fun last time around with the likes of Jammie Ward, Gene Jackson, and even my brother Jesse joining in, talking some great old-time memories, talking about WrestleMania IV, but the story continues, because at this point, we've only completed the first round of the championship tournament. So much more to come here. The quarterfinals, the semis, the finals, the Intercontinental Championship match between Brutus the Barber Beefcake and the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, the Honky Tonk Man. Tag Team Champion Strikeforce defending against Demolition. And let us not forget the return of Matilda, also right around the corner here as part of part 2 of the WrestleMania IV review. But before we get going, just a quick reminder that you guys can listen to the Wrestling Memory Grenade and sister shows like the Wrestling Stoop podcast with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Also, the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, currently covering 3 projects on regional wrestling, including Memphis 85 with Gene Jackson, Georgia 81 with Jammie Ward, and the UWF in 1986 with Roman Gomez. You can also now listen to the Pro Wrestling Academy, just about to drop, with the professor of Pro Racer himself, Mr. Dan Ginnity. And don't forget about that monster upcoming event, talking about the Glory Days GrappleCon on April 20th in Orlando, Florida, the Rosen Center Hotel. Dozens of great superstars, both past and present, going to be part of that, all thanks to the duo of Barry Rose and Captain Nick Massey, who now also have their very own podcast here on the brand. It's the Glory Days GrappleCon cast. You never know who they're going to have as their special interview from week to week. You're going to want to tune into that and so much more. All of that part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And be sure to follow me on social media for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. You can follow me on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade, and subscribe today to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And last, but most certainly not least, I'm talking about that $5 all access tier over at Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, Patreon.com/WrestleCopia. It's a place where you get so many gifts for just $5, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare Project. You'll also get early access to many of the podcasts here on WrestleCopia, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. In fact, the debut edition of the Pro Wrestling Academy dropped 2 weeks early. Unbelievable. You'll also get remastered versions of the earliest episodes of The Grenade Show, covering the 1989 NWA project. Includes enhanced sound quality, plus new content and conversation never heard before. But that's still not all. You also get digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive watch-along series covering mini past WWF and WCW events, and up right now, the very first ever WrestleCopia videocast, as guest co-host Gene Jackson joins me, Ray Russell, for our very first videocast when we go back in time and watch Grunt, the wrestling movie from 1985. Come along, watch the movie with us, and have fun along with us there. And you guys get all of that for the low, low price of just $5. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month. I think you'll like all of the content that I offer, and every penny of it simply supports the brand, guys, because every dollar you donate goes right back here into paying the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and all of the wonderful shows here up and running for the months and the years to come. And with all of that said, all of that out of the way, you know what time it is. It's time to dive back into the WrestleMania IV review, Part 2.
The WWF, what the world is watching.
And we last left off going into intermission. The first round of the tournament just concluded. The quarterfinals now upon us. We know it's going to be Hulk and Andre, both men receiving byes through the first round into the quarters. From there, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, taking on the Rock Don MURACO. The one-man gang going to get a bye here in the quarters straight into the semifinals. He's going to take on the winner of the Macho Man Randy Savage, Greg the Hammer Valentine contest. And before we get going, one final thing I got to say. We return from that big 4-hour mega event. I'm not talking WrestleMania 4, but rather part 1 of this podcast right here on WrestleMania 4, a huge 4-hour special, just part 1. The WrestleMania 4 review, part 1. Special thanks again go out to Gene Jackson for being my Bob Uecker for the Battle Royal. Also want to thank my brother Jesse for joining me last time around, talk some childhood memories, and the Ultimate Warrior versus the Mighty Hercules. And of course, Jammie Ward, want to thank him especially for all of those first-hand memories of attending this pay-per-view spectacular. Of course, Jammie helped me cover all of the first-round matches as well. Hopefully, we'll have Jammie back here in just a little bit. We'll have to try to get a hold of Jammie here in a moment. But now we are back, guys, with part 2 of the WrestleMania 4 review, and we are still live from Atlantic City, New Jersey, still March 27th, 1988, and still not at Trump Plaza, but rather the Boardwalk Hall. But we'll continue to pretend since the Donald is sponsoring the event. And at this point, I invite everyone to come for the guests, come for the action, come for the pageantry, come for the drama, but stay for the breakdown at the end of the show. And as we get rolling, last we left off, we saw the conclusion of the first round of the WWF Championship Tournament. 7 men now eliminated, which means 7 remain hopeful in hopes of becoming the next reigning, undisputed WWF champion by the end of this episode of The Grenade. And we're going to kick off part 2 right here of the WrestleMania 4 review by heading into the quarterfinals. Hulk and Andre on tap first. But before we get there, on the pay-per-view as we come back from intermission, Gorilla Monsoon, Jesse Ventura welcoming us with our return to the big show. We even get a glimpse of boxing legend Sugar Ray Leonard seated ringside there. And you got to kind of wonder if they set it up here. What I'm referencing is Vince will actually be promoting the upcoming Sugar Ray Leonard Lalonde fight for later this year. Then from there, it's off to a video package, once again reminding us how we got here today. We go all the way back to the questionable count of Joey Marella back at WrestleMania 3. Did Andre defeat Hogan for the title in the first minute of the match after that failed body slam attempt? Some say yes, some say no. and we get a few other highlights along the way. And then it's straight to the main event, February 5, where some chicanery led to Andre winning the championship belt. And I should note they made sure to leave out all of the footage of the twin Hebner angle here, instead implying that the referee was simply bought off. So if we're already erasing history and pretending like there weren't two Hebners, it certainly raises other questions as to why Dave Hebner would remain an official. Figured they'd fire him and he could form a tag team with Danny Davis. Boy, wouldn't that have been something. So for an angle that was crazy over when it happened, they have since moved away from it. No more twin referees. Like we're just supposed to forget about an angle that took place 6 weeks ago. Like we're supposed to forget that we just saw two, quote-unquote, Dave Hebners. Nevertheless, this match, Hulk and Andre, the rematch, 15 months in the making. The story continues here at WrestleMania 4, but as we come out of the video package, we hear Gorilla say this.
Well, that's all water under the dam now, Jess, and right now all roads lead to the gold.
I believe that's bridge, Gorilla. Water under the bridge is what you were looking for there. Dams actually block water. They hold water. That's how they work. But you're the Gorilla, so who am I to question? But he does say that all roads lead to the gold. And all roads here lead us back to the WrestleMania 4 review. So we go from the Jake Roberts Rick Rude snooze fest to the Ultimate Warrior Hercules fiasco to a lengthy intermission. So let's see how many of these high rollers return to their ringside seats for the second half, shall we? Hell, let's see how the crowd in general responds. See if we can wake them back up, huh? As we head off now, we head back to ringside for the quarterfinals of the WWF Championship Tournament. And here once again to help me call some of the matches here in the quarterfinals. You heard him here last time as part of the WrestleMania 4 review part 1. And now we're bringing him back to call several more matches. He was actually in attendance at WrestleMania 4. Welcome back, Mr. Jammie Ward, one more time.
It's awesome to be back with you, Ray.
Oh, it's great to have you back. You were there, Jammie, so we got to have you as part of the show. Appreciate everything you put in last time around, not just your input on the memories of being there, but of course, you covered the first round, and I wanted to have you back for a few more matches here in regards to part 2, and we're going to kick things off this time around with the opening match of the quarterfinals. It's the former WWF champion Hulk Hogan taking on his arch nemesis Andre the Giant here. But Andre is not alone here, Jammie. He's accompanied to the ring by the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and Virgil, and I guess we should have saw that coming because, well, we saw Andre with DiBiase earlier, but now we see it works both ways.
Yeah, it's good to see being there live. It made sense to see DiBiase and Virgil come out with Andre. I mean, after all, he did try to buy the belt from Andre once here. He's probably hoping that him and Andre will wind up in the next round and Andre will lie down for him.
Well, protecting his assets, absolutely, is DiBiase here in regards to Andre the Giant. And I know what everybody's thinking. How are both DiBiase and Virgil ringside, however? Well, Jesse Ventura explains it here. He says, DiBiase is there for Andre and Virgil is there for the $1 Million Man. So Jesse, once again, telling it like it is. It all makes sense. And Ventura also asking Gorilla if he ever had a manager back in his day, as Gorilla throws out the name Wild Red Berry. Talk about a blast from the past there. Is Hulk Hogan going to make his way out next, playing to the fans as he makes his way down those steps? And then the Hulkster gets a running start and slides into the ring like he's John fucking Cena. I wrote, wow. I hadn't noticed that before.
Yeah, Hogan had moved like that since he was in New Japan in '84.
Well, he had to do something here. He knew it wasn't going to be a long night. So Hulk starts sliding into the ring here. But Andre is ready and immediately begins stomping and pounding away on the Hulkster as he slides inside. Hey, wait a minute. Who in the blue hell thought this would be a good idea? Joey Morella, the referee again? 2 years in a row, Hulk and Andre?
I thought the same thing there when I was there live, right? How in the world do you put Joey Morella?
Of all the referees.
The controversial ending that they said for the last year, his bad 3 count.
Right.
And you got him right back in there again. I mean, it'd almost be like having a Hebner referee a Hulk Hogan-Andre match.
Well, it'd almost be like having Hebner referee a championship match, but we'll have more on that later. Might as well throw Danny Davis in here at this point. But nevertheless, Morella, he calls for the bell as the Giant attacks the Hulkster, and Donald and Ivana Trump return to their seats from intermission. Andre clubbering Hogan, big headbutts, turnbuckle shots, Hulk still in his shirt though, and bandana. As the Giant chops and headbutts away in the corner, Hogan finally going to retaliate with 3 running forearm smashes off the ropes. Hulk really laying those in too. They look really good, rocking Andre up against the ropes. And on the other side, it's Ted DiBiase popping up onto the apron, and then Hulk going to turn around, grab hold of DiBiase and his $1 million ring jacket as Andre comes over, but Hogan ready for him, delivering a double noggin knocker, Jess. And then Hulk repeatedly chopping the Giant. You don't see that every day. Hulk Hogan chopping Andre, causing him to stagger backwards, and he gets caught in the ropes, something we do see quite often there, but Hulk Hogan laying it to the Giant early on, laying it in, making it look good.
Yeah, Hogan was at the top of his game here. I mean, it wasn't your typical Hulk Hogan match. He was into it. He was working hard.
And I gotta, I say this all the time. I wasn't a giant Hulk Hogan fan as a kid, but I love this next spot here, if you can call this a spot, with Andre the Giant tied up in the ropes. Hulk Hogan gonna capitalize by tearing his shirt off right in Andre's face. I wrote, yeah, that'll weaken the Giant, but fun sight though. Hulk Hogan, Andre's trapped in the ropes. He can do anything he wants to him, but instead he's gonna rip his shirt off and pose for the Trumps.
It was visual intimidation right there.
Is that what that was?
He was psyching the Giant out.
Okay.
If he could do that to his shirt, imagine what he could do to Andre.
Oh, you got an answer for everything, Jamie. As DiBiase, Virgil, and Joey Marella combine their efforts to free the Giant from the ropes, Hogan plays to the crowd, and with Andre finally free, Hogan unloading with a myriad of punches as the Giant finally staggering down to one knee, and then slowly onto his back. I said that was an awkward bump. Very awkward fall. Slow motion is as slow as it can be. Andre finally making his way down to the mat. I don't know if he did that on purpose or if he did that because, he had to because of his failing, body at this point in time. But it was rough to see.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you could tell Andre is toward the end at this point, and his back is bothering him again.
Right. It's crazy to think, too, because he's basically avoided wrestling for the better part of the last 2 years. He left after the Battle Royal. He did a little bit for Inoki over in Japan, but for most of 86, he was filming a movie. He got back surgery. He came back and worked WrestleMania 7. For the most part, took off all the way to Survivor Series. And now that he looks the worst he ever has, he's going to go back on the road nearly full time, working with Hacksaw after this.
That's how much Andre loved the sport.
Yeah, I got a little bit of notes here at the end of this from Bruce Pritchard in regards to Andre, how much he loved the wrestling business, even though his health was clearly deteriorating by the week, literally. As Hogan then looks for a trifecta of rapid-fire elbow drops, another fun spot coming up. As Hogan goes to drop the third elbow, he's actually caught mid-elbow drop by Andre, who turns it into a chokehold. Something only Andre, somebody the size of Andre, could get away with. Catching a man falling on him in midair and turning it into another move.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah, and Andre could do anything he wanted to on the mat. See, he doesn't have to stand for that. So it worked. It actually worked out, choking away on Hogan multiple times here to the count of 4. I wrote, how many times before it's a disqualification? Can you just do that all night as long as you release on 4, Jamie?
I believe you can.
Wow.
I mean, I'm a Jesse Ventura guy. Jesse says you can do it. I believe it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair. Andre then stomping on the Hulkster. DiBiase even getting it a cheap shot as well. And back to more choking. In fact, lots more choking, Jamie. And then it happens. Andre locks it on. The double trapezius nerve hold of doom as Hogan slowly begins to crumple to his knees. Now, this is the fun part. Back on the old Coliseum home video, we end tape number 1 in the middle of this move in a rest hold. It was always weird to me. To be continued on tape number 2, Jamie. Maybe separate the tape as Hogan's hitting the ring. That would have been more exciting because this isn't actually making me want to put in tape number 2.
Yeah, but Vinnie Mac thought it was a cliffhanger.
Will Hogan
lose? Will Andre win? Will Hogan come back and overcome the odds? Stay tuned.
There you go.
On video number 2.
You can read into this. You got a good mind here, Jamie. I know what they were going for, but let's be honest, that wasn't the most entertaining move to make me in the, now you got to really force me to put in tape number 2, but I did every time as a kid. Let's see what happens here as we go on.
Come on, Ray. What kind of high spot is Andre going to hit?
I know. Anywho.
I mean, about the only other thing you could have done there is have him sit down on top of Hogan, get a 1-2, and then come back for tape 2.
He could have sat on him and shit on him like he did Bad News. That would have been more entertaining. I would have stayed tuned for more of that on tape number 2. But whether you watch it straight through or throw in the second VHS tape, guys, the double nerve pinch doom continues on as Joey Marella begins to raise the Hulkster's arm. It goes up once and it drops. Twice and it drops again. Third time, the Hulkster's still in this, Jamie. Hogan makes his way back to his feet, breaks the nerve hold, and lays in several big clotheslines that take Andre back, rocking him back to the corner. Hulk making the big comeback, it would seem, but Virgil now up on the apron to distract the referee as Hogan goes to slam the Giant. Ted DiBiase coming in from behind, blasting Hulk across the back with a steel chair. Hulk, however, barely sells it. Imagine that. Turning around to go after the $1 Million Man, but Ted dropping the chair in the middle of the ring as he bails to the floor. Wonder why he would just drop the chair like that.
I'm sure it was an accident.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait and see, but not for long. Hogan actually going to be the one who picks the chair up and tries to clock Andre with it right in front of Marella. But Andre grabbing the chair, the two men begin to fight over it. Hogan, though, with a boot to Andre's gut, gains control of the steel chair and blasts it across the back of the Eighth Wonder, which should have been a disqualification, but Marella, well, he does see it, guys. He's looking right at it. And rather than calling for a DQ, he fights Hogan over the chair and just admonishes him. How dare you, Hulk? Don't do that again. Simply warning Hulk Hogan. I knew it, Jamie. Biased officiating.
Jesse Ventura told you all along, you can't trust that Joey Marella guy. This is 2 years in a row Andre gets screwed by Joey Marella.
At least Ventura can see it. For some reason, Gorilla Monsoon, he never says anything bad about Joey Marella. I haven't been able to figure that out.
Nepotism.
Okay, well, maybe. Bless you there. While Marella and Hogan fight over the chair, Andre going to reach in, snatching the steel weapon from both guys. Now Andre has the chair, putting the boot to Hulk Hogan right in the gut, blasting him this time with the wrong side of the chair, I might add, right across the head, brother. Take that, Hulkster. And now, only now does the referee call for the bell now that Hulk Hogan's in trouble, as Gorilla Monsoon automatically knows before we even hear anything, this is ruled a double disqualification. In this match, it only goes 5 minutes and 21 seconds. Both men eliminated. I wrote, wow, did not see that coming the first time I watched this back in the late 80s. Top 2 names here, both eliminated in the first match of the tournament for them.
I mean, watching it live in person, I thought Hogan was going over.
I
didn't see him getting the pin again, but I was seeing, DiBiase getting caught doing something, maybe Andre getting counted out somehow, but I didn't see a double disqualification on the way where both guys would get booted out of the tournament.
No, I think it would have been very awkward for the main event of the 93,000 fan show to be put on in the middle of WrestleMania 4 and then have a clean finish like that. So I agree with you. I really wasn't expecting a pinfall on Andre in the middle of a show, but at the same time, I certainly expected somebody to advance, whether it was like you said, and others have speculated, was Andre simply going to lay down for DiBiase had he advanced? Or, what would have happened between Hulk and DiBiase had Hulk Hogan advanced? But neither guy going to advance, as after the bell, Hogan picking up the chair, picking it back up, comes running off the ropes for added momentum, blasting Andre across the head with the steel, knocking the Giant down right on his backside. As DiBiase and Virgil then reaching in, comically trying to pull Andre out of the ring and out cold Giant, but Andre doesn't move an inch. I loved it. Great spot.
Yeah, Andre wasn't going anywhere.
So Hogan then lays chase to both Virgil and the $1 Million Man around ringside and halfway up the aisle, where DiBiase stops and puts Virgil in front of him. Well, I mean, he is his bodyguard, right? Bodyguard. DiBiase then shoving Virgil into Hulk, throwing him to the wolves, says Gorilla Monsoon, giving Ted just enough time to run off, while Virgil going to suffer the consequences. Well, to be fair, it's kind of his job, Jamie.
Well, he is the bodyguard, and he did his job perfectly here.
I don't know if he had, much of a say in it. DiBiase shoving Virgil.
it is another story. But, watching that over just the other day, I think it was definitely a design spot because you could see Hogan was running out of gas. And if they had gone much further, Hogan wasn't getting anywhere near him. They would have left Hogan really in the dust.
He had to go back and pose, brother.
Yeah, so either Goulet or Pat Patterson must have given DiBiase the signal like to stop right there, don't go any further.
Well, to be fair, I mean, it is, Virgil's job to take these blows here, even if it is a shitty thing to do for the $1 Million Man. Hulk Hogan going to grab hold of Virgil and suplex him on the concrete. Well, on the shit carpeting, but still on the concrete here in the middle of the aisle. But as he suplexes Virgil here, it's lazy man style. Hogan not going to take that bump, brother, as he just drops Virgil, lays out the bodyguard. And I always thought as a kid, this was so crazy and dangerous, this bump here, because Hogan not even guiding him down, and there's no padding.
He just drops him. He doesn't protect him at all.
No, so Hogan's going to protect himself, though, not taking the bump.
I've never seen, when I watched this over the other day, I don't think I've ever seen somebody not follow through with the bump, especially in the modern game. Everybody does the suplex on the rampway, concrete floor, whatever. I never saw that before. I've
given Greg Valentine a lot of flack. What I always referred to from him as the lazy man suplex, because he kind of guides the guy over, but Hammer doesn't really want to take the bump either, but he guides them over safely. And Hulk Hogan just kind of picks Virgil up in a vertical suplex position and just lets him go. I mean, whatever happens, happens. I wrote, thankfully, they weren't, he didn't land on one of the steps in the aisle. That could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, well, fortunately, they were only halfway up. So maybe because they were on a slant, he was able to take the bump a little bit better than if it was flat on the back.
Well, great bump by Virgil either way, as if he really had
probably
a choice
the best
here.
Of his career, too.
Yeah, he didn't really have much of a choice but to go with it. I mean, it was Hulk Hogan giving you a move. You're just going to take it. I just hope he got decent pay here for tonight, as that spot will end the night of Virgil here at WrestleMania 4. He will not return. He's going to sell this suplex for the remainder of the pay-per-view.
He made a big impact this first WrestleMania.
And with DiBiase gone and Virgil down and out, Hogan rushing back to the ring where he proceeds to body slam the groggy giant. And Real American begins to play as Hogan must pose, pal. Jesse Ventura questioning why Hogan is celebrating and posing when he can't win the title. Good question, Jesse. I always wondered that as well. Selling like, Lex Luger at SummerSlam 93 here. Might as well drop some balloons. Hulk Hogan just happy with himself. I'm not really sure why. Well, Coliseum Video, they knew how to make a shitty 5.5 minute match feel like it was 15 minutes by changing that VHS tape we were talking about. But I was honestly impressed with what they got out of Andre at the main event back on February 5, pal. Hulk and Andre there, not bad. Granted, I mean, it was a dog and pony show. Lots of smoke and mirrors with run-ins from DiBiase and Virgil around ringside, but it was a lot more fun. And we even saw Hogan take a bump off the top rope. He did a flying clothesline, but we got none of that here from the Hulkster or Andre, and this was pay-per-view, so it leads me to believe, again, Andre far more deteriorated just in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, there wasn't much he could do at this point. Plus, Vince, yes, it's pay-per-view, but he's already has his money. What does he have to have guys, go extra for? National television, NBC, live for the first time, in 30 years on network television?
Yeah, I'm not sure what I was expecting here, but I was just disappointed with the match overall.
Yeah, I guess so. But, being there live, everyone attacks this as being a bad audience. The audience was into this match just because it was Hogan and Andre.
Oh, Hogan got noised. Yeah, I'm not questioning that.
And for 5 minutes, I think it was fine for what it was.
Well, I thought the first 2 minutes.
It wasn't Flair Steamboat. But
no, I wasn't expecting that.
It was Hogan Andre for 5 minutes, and we got what we got, and it wasn't a total embarrassment. I mean,
it could have been worse.
It wasn't Andre Ultimate Warrior.
No, that's for sure. I mean, the first 2 minutes were fun. Hogan coming in there, getting the beat down, coming back, ripping the shirt off. The crowd was hyped. Everything was great. And then we go to the trapezius hold, and it just never picked back up from there. The final 3.5 minutes just dragged on for me. But Andre just clearly deteriorating before our eyes, which is just sad to see. But he's going to be here for a couple more years, which is just crazy to think about. As Andre clearly lost some weight heading into this, but it simply didn't translate over to him moving any better. As Bruce Pritchard has said, Andre didn't realize just how bad off he really was. I mean, they tried to protect him from himself in these matches because he wanted to go out there and he wanted to contribute, but they could tell that he just didn't have it anymore. As Hogan is now off to do no holds barred, we get this for a finish, this double DQ. Not even a Hulk up involved here. No comeback here for the Hulkster, which I thought was really odd, but there is a body slam, so we did get that. And then, of course, the posing goes on entirely too long. Last thing we need right now on this show is a 20-minute Hogan pose fest.
I loved it. So I'll be a Hulkamaniac for this. However, Jesse is right. Never trust Hulk Hogan. And we found out, almost 10 years later that you can't trust Hogan.
But now that we move past the story they're telling in regards to Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, even the $1 Million Man, let it sink in for just a moment, everybody. We are guaranteed at this point, midway through the pay-per-view, that there will absolutely be a brand new WWF champion not named Hulk Hogan. A new champion guaranteed to be crowned here tonight now, which is kind of a big deal.
And I believe Monsoon actually makes that point.
Oh, does he? Well, very cool.
On the broadcast, I'm pretty sure he did.
That's very possible. And now we know the winner of the next match. That also means the winner of MURACO and Dibiase will go straight to the finals of the tournament. So even bigger ramifications coming out of that one, which will be the next match. But before we get there, right now we head backstage. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with the Macho Man Randy Savage and the lovely Miss Elizabeth.
All right, surprises, surprises. I cannot believe that one of those two men did not advance, but that's the way it comes down, Macho Man. You and Elizabeth and myself have been watching your thoughts.
Hulk Hogan is a cheated man, not a defeated man. In fact, Hulk Hogan has never been defeated. Not by me, not by you, not by Andre the Giant, not by Ted DiBiase, you understand? Right there, yeah.
All right, now there is more to come. You have advanced, quite obviously, Macho Man Randy Savage. Speculate, if you will, for us on your chances. Greg the Hammer Valentine up in round two.
Well, I've had the blessings of the mania all along, and I'm figuring and thinking that nothing's gonna stop the Macho Man Randy Savage now. The madness, yeah, the madness with that momentum, and multiply with the momentum of, Hulkamania. Nothing is gonna stop one half of the mega powers from going all the way to the end. All the way to the championship, yeah. I'm gonna take it all, yeah. I'm gonna take it all. Elizabeth, am I gonna take it all or what?
What about it, Elizabeth?
I believe he is.
I'll tell you what, you keep smiling. That's got to be a great inspiration to the Macho Man Randy Savage as he advances in the championship elimination tournament here as part of WrestleMania IV. Gorilla Jesse, let's get back to you.
Doing it, yeah.
So now the duo rocking matching pink attire for round number two. As Mean Gene shocked neither man advanced in the prior match, Hulk or Andre, Macho Man says Hulk Hogan was a cheated man, not a defeated man. He says Hulk Hogan has never been pinned by anyone. Not the Macho Man, not anyone. I wrote, glad to see the main focus here is on Hogan's elimination, and then the Macho Man's match comes second here, brother. Wonder whose idea that was. But Macho says he has the blessing of the mania. He's taking it all tonight. The madness with the momentum. One half of the mega powers. So Savage says gonna take it all as once again, history beckons the Macho Man.
Dig it. We both know that the moment Hogan got backstage, he searched out the Macho Man and said, brother, you better win this one. It's all yours.
I thought you were going to say, brother, you better mention me. But yeah, yeah, sure. He there you go. We head back to the ring, though. Next matchup, it is The Rock Don Morocco with superstar Billy Graham taking on the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Of course, The Rock over Dino Bravo in the prior round. DiBiase defeating Hacksaw Jim Duggan. 5 men now remaining in the tournament at this point. The winner of this match controls their own destiny, Jamie, guaranteed a spot in the championship finals. And with Andre recovering from the previous match and Virgil taken out for the night, DiBiase is actually out here alone for the second round. 2 cornermen last round, 0 this time around for DiBiase. I don't think he had it planned that way. Is Teddy going to have to rely on his cunning and actual wrestling ability to get through this one?
And he was ready to wrestle because if you noticed, he didn't come down in his $1 Million Man outfit.
Oh, you think he was going to put all that on again?
He came down in the trunks ready to wrestle.
Well, good for him. As referee here is happy Jack Kruger for this one. As DiBiase gets to ringside, he turns to argue with the fans when MURACO reaches over the top rope, yanking Teddy onto the apron by his hair, running him along the apron into the top turnbuckle before scoop slamming Dibiase into the ring, and the bell sounds somewhere in there as The Rock with a sequence of moves, a big clothesline, elbow drop, nice power slam, going to get himself a 2 count, a back elbow from MURACO dropping Dibiase as Don then off the middle rope with a diving Asiatic spike to the throat. A little callback, a move Don used many moons ago. Gets him another 2 count there. I love Don MURACO on the offense here.
I said it in the first round. MURACO is ripped.
Oh, well, yeah. He's got the hoses, dude. He brought every hose.
He was definitely taking extra vitamins at this point. But in this match, I'll say this is the best match he has had in years, in my opinion. He was really trying. He had the perfect dance partner in Dibiase. And go ahead, and then I'll come on next.
You're good. Just lots of energy. The Rock, instead of slowing things down here where you might expect it, he actually picks it up another notch as he stays on top of the $1 Million Man with a snapmare, followed by a rolling neck snap, Mr. Perfect style. I wrote, wow, I am impressed, as Don then yanking Dibiase out of the corner and then delivering a standing drop kick. A standing fucking drop kick by the jacked up Don MURACO for another near fall. I wrote, he came to work tonight. Awesome, awesome stuff.
Even watching it live, I thought I was in 1982 watching MURACO.
Yeah, very, very possible. And he was a heel then. He wasn't even busting out some of this then. Seeing the rolling neck snap move before Curt Hennig arrives, I know he didn't invent the move, but you didn't see it used a whole lot. And to see Don MURACO use it here, I pop for it.
Yeah, the last time MURACO wrestled like this is when, actually probably you got to go back to 81 when he first came in and took on Backlund, and they were going to the, quote, 60-minute draws.
Right.
47-minute, 60-minute draws. They pushed him as every bit the wrestler that Backlund was, and he showed a lot of that during that run. And, not only was he taking the special vitamins, but I think he was taking something else to put him back in time.
Yeah, it's almost like he's in some type of a rapid speed here in this match.
Very possible.
Okay. As Dibiase taking all of this pummeling from MURACO, finally the $1 Million Man wisely bailing out to the floor. But when he rolls out of the ring, he lands by Superstar Graham. So Dibiase wisely re-entering the ring in pretty quick fashion there. As MURACO then going to drive Teddy back into the corner, looks to yank him out a second time, but Dibiase grabbing hold of the ropes and he's not going to let it go, using them for leverage to pull MURACO into the buckle. And I wrote, I don't think I've ever seen that before, Jamie. I don't know if you know what spot I'm talking about, but very crafty by the $1 Million Man, the old bump out of the corner, the heels grab hold of the ropes, the babyface grabs him by the ankles, yanks him out, and he did that earlier. But MURACO tries it a second time, and Dibiase simply holds on. That's all he had to do, and he uses the momentum to pull MURACO back into the corner. I thought pretty clever, and you don't really see that.
Yeah, that was a nice move. That probably goes back to the Bill Watts days.
It's very possible. As the momentum going to send MURACO into the corner, up onto the turnbuckle, over the top rope, and down onto the apron. Teddy finally going to take over here, stomping and choking away in the corner. Big clothesline, barely going to get Dibiase a 2 count, as Ted then going to catch MURACO coming off the ropes with a knee to the breadbasket and a pair of patented $1 Million fist drops. As Dibiase makes the cover, but MURACO with his foot on the bottom rope. Dibiase continues on the offense, but telegraphs a backdrop and eats a boot to the face, but Ted manages to stay on top, slamming MURACO in place for that patented falling back elbow off the middle rope, which he's been using as his finisher in recent months, as Dibiase goes up, but he misses the elbow. And I wrote, and it begins, because this may be the mark. I don't know that Dibiase will ever actually connect with this elbow again. We're going to start seeing him take that kind of rolling backflip bump when he misses this elbow. He had connected every time up until now in the squash matches, but he misses here, and I don't know that he ever hits this again. Dibiase then whipped into the corner and bounces out into a MURACO clothesline. Don then with a quick shoulder tackle before hitting the ropes again, but runs right into a hot shot. Dibiase catching MURACO in the air, dropping him throat first across the rope. Dibiase then showing off his ring skills and his brains as well as he takes the wind out of the Rock and gets the 1-2-3. Now this is how you do a 5-minute match. This match goes 5 minutes and 34 seconds, and what a believable finish that hot shot.
Oh yeah, this was probably match of the night. This one. This was 5 minutes and 31 seconds of pure action.
Yeah, it was a really good match. I don't know if I would go match of the night. It's very possible, and of course that's subjective anyway. But it was really good. It was really, really good. And yeah,
tournament match of the night. How's that sound?
Well, that's very possible. But I'm just trying to think here.
If we had other matches here,
I don't know that we're ever going to see a MURACO match this good again. But they do fight again on Saturday night's main event.
Okay, they do follow this up. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we'll see a rematch. So now we know how far being roided out of your mind takes you. It takes you to the quarterfinals. But in all seriousness, with a much better quality of opponent this round, not named Dino Bravo, but rather Ted DiBiase, MURACO really upped his game here. As you said, perfect opponent. Great little matchup. And again, I'm looking forward to the rematch in just a few weeks' time on NBC.
Kind of like Steamboat, you could have seen this as possibly being MURACO's swan song in the WWF. He doesn't have much life left after this anyway.
Well, he'll hang in here till the fall, but I don't know that he's ever going to look like this again. I'll say that much. And yeah, it was very impressive. And I really wish we got more of this a little earlier in his career, before, things were where they are right now for Don MURACO, who's getting a little long in the tooth in regards to his run here in the company, I should say. And I don't know that he really cares. He kind of likes just hanging out and surfing in Hawaii.
Oh, that's where he's from.
And, just take a step back and assess the situation, though. Subliminal message here, maybe, maybe not, but the story falling into place, because if you look around at this very moment, the only 4 people left in the tournament are Randy Savage, his upcoming quarterfinal opponent, Greg Valentine, the one-man gang, and Ted DiBiase. Those are 3 names that Macho Man will become very acclimated with before the night is over. As we go off now to Bob Uecker standing by with Mr. Fuji and Demolition.
Hey, it's getting to be nervous time down here. I've been looking all over for Vanna White, and, with everything weird that's happened here tonight, maybe somebody grabbed her, maybe somebody kidnapped her. She's supposed to meet me down here, and, we're supposed to do a whole bunch of stuff, and I said...
Well, Uecker, it's just a couple of minutes away. And you remember in your baseball days when somebody would take a baseball bat and hit you on the top of the head? What happened? You went down. Well, Strike Force, today, Master Fuji has ordered us to hit you on the head. And you're gonna go down.
There's a lot of bad things happening. But the baddest is about to happen now. We're gonna get in contact. Brutal contact with the Strike Force. The Golden Goose is flying low in Atlantic City. All we've got to do is reach up and wring her neck and bring home the gold belts.
Oh. Must be October 31st already. I'm never eating sushi either.
So Uecker still looking for Vanna White, Jamie, but instead he finds Demolition. What a replacement. As Axe and Smash looking to pluck the Golden Goose, the tag team champions, out of the sky here tonight, and I do believe they mean it.
I would always take whatever Demolition said very seriously. I mean, after all, I always took what the Masked Superstar said very seriously.
No, good call. It's almost like, it's the same guy here cutting these promos. As we head back to ringside, we see in the ring, it's the one-man gang and his manager Slick, as the gang will receive a bye through the quarterfinals. They're actually brought out here to celebrate in front of the fans, kind of a nice visual aid so you can see what's going on. But the winner of the next match will have to face the gang in the semifinals, whether it be Macho Man or Greg Valentine. But the gang, a big man, how did you feel? I know you knew the one-man gang's past history, specifically maybe in Dallas, the UWF, but his run here in the WWF, you said you knew he was never going to get the belt. But at the same time, were you pumped that the gang was advancing here round after round?
Oh, yeah. I liked the gang since he was Crusher Broomfield back in the ICW when I used to pick that up from on the Satellite Programming Network as part of Lars Anderson's World League Wrestling.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I didn't know you got to see that back in real time. That's pretty damn cool. Yeah, Crusher Broomfield stuff is great stuff, man. If you guys can find it on YouTube or whatnot, go check it out, man. He was always a damn good talent for a guy his size.
Yeah, then he went to Florida under the same gimmick back 81, 82. Before he becomes the one-man gang?
Yeah, he'll arrive in Mid-South. I think that's where he gets the name the one-man gang. And he'll go back to Florida and become the Panama gang at one point, but we'll try to pretend like that never happened. As we go back to the ring here, final match of the quarterfinals. It's the Macho Man, Randy Savage, taking on Greg the Hammer Valentine, the lovely Miss Elizabeth and Jimmy Hart in their respective corners. And Randy and Liz out here for the second time tonight, now rocking matching pink attire, and hopefully that 9 minutes with Steamboat in the first round plays into that usual 15 to 20 minutes that it takes the Hammer to get warmed up, because otherwise he's no match for the Macho Man here, as the Hammer has made it a point to note in weeks leading in here on promos that he was the Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania 1, he was the Tag Team Champion at WrestleMania 2, and tonight he goes for the only title that has avoided him here in the WWF.
Technically, he did hold it for about 20 seconds.
Well, are we acknowledging that, though, I guess? Well, you're right.
I
for the sticklers out there. Okay, well.
That's all that matters. I acknowledge it.
Well,
the WWF in general never acknowledged it, but the state of New York did for about 20 seconds.
You know, I wish I could go back now. I don't remember who the referee was for Macho Man's opening round match, but I noticed Dave Hebner is the referee here, and that may be a trend that continues on. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, Dave Hebner calling for the bell as the Hammer goes to the eyes early on, getting Savage in the corner, but Macho Man firing back, driving Valentine down with a knee drop and a quick 2 count to start off the matchup. The Hammer, though, quickly coming back, drilling Savage with a forearm off the top rope and a pair of hammer-like elbow drops, and then he lands the Bob Roop shoulder breaker, gets himself a 2 count there on the Macho Man. Valentine then flinging Savage out to the floor, dropping a standing elbow off the apron to the outside. Hammer kicking it into high gear as well. Well, for Greg Valentine's speed anyway, as Greg going to stay on the offense, chopping away, ramming Savage into the railing, even laying in some more punishment on the apron. I wrote great selling here by Savage, who simply looks spent laying here. Just great sell job by the Macho Man.
Macho Man was great. I mean, that's part of his package. Not only was he great on the offense, he was great selling. And he's making Valentine at this point of the match actually look like he has a chance to beat Savage.
He really does. And coming off that win over Steamboat in the first round, maybe a few fans, they could be fooled. They could be wondering, does he really have the shot to go even further? Because, you know, ever since Valentine split away from Johnny V, he doesn't have that Johnny V disease you were talking about before. Maybe things are looking up for Greg Valentine now as the Hammer drops a forearm off the apron down into the throat of Savage, who is dangling off the apron, and then a series of Dick Murdoch-esque elbows across the chest of the Macho Man on the apron as well. And then back inside, Greg begins working over the leg of Savage, hoping to apply his patented figure 4 leg lock, as this match has been almost all Hammer, unbelievably. We then get Valentine. This is Valentine's version of the lazy man suplex, though Greg does follow through, I noted, which something Hulk Hogan did not do. And what I mean by follow through is he kind of pivots his body to where it's almost like you're kind of comfortably landing the guy down, almost in a body slam type style. Either way, though, I was wondering, Greg just didn't like to take a bump unless he had to either. But a backbreaker on Savage doesn't even get a 2 count, so the Macho Man firmly still in this thing, Jamie. And then finally, the heart, the adrenaline kicks in. Savage just starts swinging at Valentine, hoping something's going to connect. Savage slamming down Greg, and then goes up top to deliver his patented flying double axe handle. Going to get 1, 2, but Jimmy Hart up onto the apron to distract, and Savage going after the manager. The distraction allowing Valentine to attack Macho from behind, but Savage reversing a suplex, and it's Macho back up for another flying double axe handle. But as he comes down this time, he catches a shot in the gut from Greg the Hammer Valentine, and we see both men now down on the mat as Jesse Ventura believes that maybe they hit each other, which I wrote was also possible. Did you catch this spot or this commentary by Jesse here?
Yes, I did.
Very curious because it did look like Valentine just simply got a shot in, but Jesse adds a little bit more to it. I think they hit each other, Gorilla.
Well, you know what? If anybody knows how to beat Randy Savage, it would be Jimmy Hart. They do have a big history.
Lots of history. Oh, yeah. And they came to the WWF just a few months apart back in 1985. As a Savage is the first one back up from the shot, though, charging at Greg Valentine, trying to straddle him across the middle rope, but Jimmy Hart able to get his own man, Greg Valentine, out of the way. As Savage charges in, Macho misses, crotching himself on those middle ropes. Valentine now looking to finish this one off with his patented figure 4 leg lock. But Greg gonna lean in just a little bit too much. Savage able to hook the head of the Hammer and counter the figure 4 into an inside cradle, scoring the 1, 2, 3. And again, this is how you do a match in just 6 minutes and 6 seconds. Not too bad.
Yeah, and it was almost as good as MURACO Dibiase. I mean, it was just like a centimeter less. Great 6 minutes of action, and this is how you put on a tournament match.
This is 1988 Greg Valentine, so that may have something to do with the quality. I got to say this, ever since he separated from Bravo, ever since they got rid of the new Dream Team, ever since Vince gave him Jimmy Hart and gave him a feud with Brutus Beefcake and has been using him a little better than he has been in a couple of years now, I got to say Greg Valentine has really tried as hard as he can in the first quarter this year. Now, I know the wheels are going to fall off eventually here, and I'm looking forward to seeing when that exactly happens. But as of right now, Valentine's been doing the best he can, and this was not a bad match.
Yeah, if you're just a fan that's semi-smart at this point, you know what's going on, but you don't know all the behind-the-scenes stuff. You might think this might be the end of Greg Valentine. It's similar to MURACO going out on a high note. But Valentine does hang around, another 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, Valentine's going to be here until they kick him to the curb. I mean, he's still going to be rhythm and blues. We got all kinds of Valentine stuff coming. The big, the year-long feud with Ronnie Garvin. Just lots of classic Greg Valentine. The babyface turn. Yeah, lots of
That's
Valentine.
Right.
Yeah, which I actually bought into, but that's another story for another year. But nothing bad here, though, in this match. It just felt like they were saving some things that they never really played out. I thought maybe it could have went on a little longer, but really, we don't have time for that. This is what you get for a 6-minute match. Nothing offensive as the Macho Man advances again, this time to take on the big one-man gang in the semifinals. And we didn't get that epic Steamboat Savage rematch here, Jamie, but this was okay for what it was. I would have loved to have seen this 3 or 4 years prior, though. Can you imagine these two in 1984, 85?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would have been something else. It's a shame that, Savage, big picture, spent that time running a promotion with his father. If he'd have gone on working the territories, he probably would have been with Vince even earlier.
Oh, yeah, good call. Well, I mean, wasn't it Jimmy Hart who turned Vince onto the tape of the Macho Man, which is kind of how he got it? Yeah, I think that's how he got Hillbilly was in there before that, though. I think it was Hillbilly that turned Vince on to Jimmy Hart, if that's how that played out. So it's kind of like pay it forward or something
right,
like
that's
that.
the story I heard. It Hillbilly to Jimmy Hart to Macho Man.
Okay, very cool. Well, I also heard Howard Finkel's name thrown in there, too, for Savage, which is believable because Fink was kind of a tape trader in his own right. I don't know how he got the tapes, but he got them. But, Jamie, that's going to wrap it up here right now. I'm going to send you off on your way, but I want to invite you back. I want to bring you back for the finals here later tonight on the Wrestling Memory Grenade.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Jamie, I'll see you in just a little bit. Looking forward to hearing from you as we head off to the next round.
Okay, I'll be ready, Ray.
And all right, as Jamie departs the commentary booth, time to bring on our next guest here for part 2 of the WrestleMania review. You heard him here last time out, covering the epic 20-man Battle Royal. And now he returns for a couple more matches here on the big WrestleMania 4 card. We're going to bring him back just in time for the big upcoming Intercontinental title match and the 6-man tag featuring the return of Matilda. Welcome back, at this time, Gene Jackson.
All right, we are back at Trump Plaza for more WrestleMania 4.
Well, I'm sure Donald Trump appreciates you referring to this as Trump Plaza. Much like Vince McMahon.
That's what we were always led to believe back then.
No internet to learn these things back then.
Exactly. I mean, I had to believe it back then.
That's right. And so we just finished up the quarterfinals here in the tournament. The semis and finals still to come. WWF Tag Team title match also still to come. But I told everyone I was bringing you in, do a couple of the big-time matches here. We're going to look at the Intercontinental title match, and then from there, the return of Matilda, the Wonder Dog, pal.
I mean, let's face it, that's what sold WrestleMania 4. I mean, sure, we had a big tournament for the belt and, some other festivities like the Battle Royal that we called in the first part. But, I mean, let's admit, the draw here, everybody packed in here because they wanted to see the return of the one and only Matilda.
We're just moments away, Gene, so hang in there because we got to get through the Intercontinental title match first. In fact, before we even get there, we're going to head backstage right now. Mean Gene Okerlund once again standing by with Vanna White as they recap the quarterfinal brackets in the championship tournament.
All right, guys, we've got action. I got to tell you that. We've got action. Vanna White. Bob Uecker's driving me nuts. He's looking all over this building for you, and he still hasn't found you. Are you hiding by any chance?
I'm hiding. I don't know who I'm hiding from. I don't know who we're talking about.
Certainly heard of Bob Uecker. All right,
I don't know.
Maybe a little bit later on that. Vanna, what about everything that's been happening here in round number 2. What a fantastic match between Hulk and Andre.
This was great. I really enjoyed it, but I told you I still like Hulk.
I
He's
know
the
you
one.
do. Now, here's a gentleman you didn't particularly care for. He has advanced, however, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, over Don Morocco. He receives a bye by virtue of what happened in the Hulk-Andre match. Down here, Macho Man Randy Savage, you commented during the course of the match what a tremendous inspiration Liz must be for the Macho Man.
She certainly is. I really like seeing them together and working together, and the more I see her, the more energy I see him have.
It's kind of like you and I, Vanna. We
Maybe
worked very
so,
well together.
yes.
One-man gang, by the way, also in the third round of WrestleMania 4 of the championship tournament. Let's get back upstairs.
All right, so Vanna White, not even sure who Bob Uecker is at this point. These backstage comedy storylines continue. Vanna, she says, as they look at the brackets and they see the elimination of Andre and Hulk, Vanna comments that she still likes Hulk. As Mean Gene has to mention, yes, but he's eliminated, Vanna. Get over it. Following the quarterfinals, though, we now see it is indeed the Macho Man versus the one-man gang in the semifinals. As Vanna says, the more she sees Elizabeth, the more energy she sees in the Macho Man.
Well, I can imagine so. I mean, Elizabeth rocks those same sort of fancy gowns like Vanna. They had a lot in common, so I could see her being drawn to Macho and Elizabeth.
Yeah, Vanna might have been worried about her spot there on the show. If Elizabeth was just a little taller, she might have been able to turn all those letters too. While we're also reminded at this point that the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, will now receive a bye thanks to the Hulk Hogan-Andre double elimination. The $1 Million Man goes straight to the finals of the championship tournament. And at this point, when you look at who's left, it's kind of a little bit anticlimactic at this point with the names remaining.
Yeah, it's like, all right, let's just go on and throw Savage in there and get this done,
Yeah, let's see. The $1 Million Man and the one-man gang could be interesting, don't get me wrong, but I mean, let's be honest, we kind of see where this is going at this point. It's just how are they going to get there?
Exactly. And they didn't get there exactly the way I was expecting, but we won't spoil anything.
No, not quite yet, but we're going to get back to the ring for Intercontinental Championship action. The IC champion Honky Tonk Man out first, along with manager Jimmy Hart and Peggy Sue by his side. He's going to be taking on the challenge of Brutus the Barber Beefcake as a young Jimmy Corderas out here refereeing. And hey, Peggy Sue making her return. We haven't seen Peggy Sue in a month or two. Sherry Martel making her WrestleMania debut, dancing away.
Bless her heart. What a way to make a WrestleMania debut as Peggy Sue. But, hey, that check cash is just as good as one where she would have had to wrestle Rockin' Robin or whoever they could have thrown at her here. So, hey, there's harder things to do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For the WrestleMania payday, whatever it may have been. But at the end of the day, I got to say, whether she was the sensational Sherry or even Peggy Sue, whatever they gave her, man, she went at it 100%.
Oh, absolutely. She was great in that role, as she was with every role she was given, just like you said. I just got to say here, I wasn't a Smart fan in 1988. I was 11 years old, and I'm ashamed to admit it now, but I was quite the Brutus the Barber Beefcake fan.
Sure.
I said, not popular to say in 2024, but in 1988, I was a fan. But you have to think that, for the Smart fans who were kind of keeping up with the dirt sheets and kind of hip to what was going on, they had to be wondering if there wasn't going to be some sort of screw job here because, you look at what happened to, Wendy Richter, and then, of course, in hindsight, looking at the Montreal screw job, things like that. And if everything's to be taken at face value, if Honky Tonk really refused to put over Savage for the Intercontinental title, I would have thought, if I'm a smart guy, that they're going to get that belt off him as soon as possible, one way or the other. And I would have thought, the Barber at WrestleMania might have been the way to go. So that's kind of interesting going into this to see, hey, Honky Tonk Man bucked the system on Vince, and now he's had a few weeks to come up with a plan. What's going to happen here?
No, that's a good call. I never looked at it from that perspective, but I think, at the end of the day, maybe it was just because Vince, I don't know that the Elvis gimmick was necessarily his idea. We know Honky Tonk was doing some of that heading into the company. But at the same time, they talk about how much Vince loved this character, how much he just adored the Honky Tonk Man gimmick itself. So I don't want to say like the $1 Million Man, he saw himself in the gimmick. Maybe he did. Who knows? Maybe he was a big Elvis fan. But the same, I love it, pal. Hound dog. Yeah, exactly. So, But it's just interesting. You're right. I mean, I never really looked at it from that perspective. But yeah, after Honky basically said, no, I'm not doing the job here on NBC, he had the opportunity to do something about it, and they didn't. But again, a lot of things could go wrong on live TV, so maybe that had a lot to do with it too.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, and if you're going to pull, I mean, let's face it, I brought up the Wendy Richter spider lady as an example. Mm-hmm. But Lord knows that went far from smooth, so maybe that was a learning experience for them. They're like, hey, let's not screw with WrestleMania.
Right. Let's save it for another day. And to Honky's credit, he does business when the time is right, and I'm sure the money was too.
Yes, that's true. So.
As we get going here, the barber going to make his way out down that long aisle without music, so it's kind of odd. It sticks out as we're in that weird period here, Gene, where some wrestlers have themes and others don't. The barber definitely feels like he needs a theme here, and he's going to get one very shortly. I think right after these TV tapings that are already recorded in the books. So it won't be too long, but right now we have to settle for the hedge clippers.
Yes, and that's a long walk, a long awkward walk for him to make, just clipping the hedge clippers with no music. So
right, we saw a lot of the heels. They're already standing in the ring. The Gang, Greg Valentine, even Ted DiBiase in some ways. Not every time, but some of the entrances he makes tonight. And in this instance, we watched the barber make that long stroll to ringside, but everybody's hyped. They're kind of getting into this a little bit in the Trump Plaza, if you will. As both men, they come a long way since WrestleMania 3. Honky had just turned heel, thanks to the fans, and now he's one of the most hated men in the WWF. And meanwhile, Beefcake, he has been owning the barber character over the last year, which to his credit, against all odds, it's now pretty over.
It really was. And, cutting Adonis's hair, in Piper's alleged retirement match was a big thing to do on a big stage. And let's face it, going into WrestleMania 4 in those promos, Brutus pushed as harder that, not only was he going to take the Intercontinental title, but he was going to shave Honky's head or at least cut his hair. And I think a lot of people were pretty psyched at the idea of seeing Honky get one of those embarrassing haircuts like we saw the year before with Adrian Adonis. So.
Yeah, I think Honky's heel heat and his character and that hair of his was more over than the championship in this particular match. I think they'd rather see Honky get his haircut than even Brutus win the title. So we'll have to see how that plays out as we get going here. And as the bell sounds, Jesse Ventura going to say hi to Terry, Tyrell, and Jade out there in Minnesota.
While we're waiting for the hookup here, Gorilla, I want to say hi to Terry, Tyrell, and Jade back in Minnesota.
Terry, Tyrell.
And Jade.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Never misses a year. Every WrestleMania, hi to Terry, Tyrell, and Jade. And as a kid, we didn't know who they were, but we always said, that's got to be his family. And it turns out it was.
Yeah, I was always suspicious of that myself. I assumed, just like you, that it had to be, but it was never confirmed. And at that point, Monsoon even tried to repeat it like it was almost like Terry Tyrell was one name. And so
right.
Jesse quickly.
You see how much Gorilla and Jesse hung out outside of these pay-per-views anyway. Exactly. I think it was WrestleMania 6 somewhere in the show. Maybe Gorilla was just looking for something to talk about. But at one point he goes, Jesse, don't you have somebody to say hello to out there? So, yeah. As the bell sounds here, though, the two men jockeying for position to begin things, with Honky beginning to pound on Brutus, but Beefcake catching Honky's foot, spinning him around for the big atomic drop. Great sell, as usual, by the Honky Tonk Man. And then the barber does the unthinkable, Gene, and messes up the hair of the Honky Tonk Man. How dare he?
Oh,
sacrilege.
Terrible. Man, the Honky Tonk Man is so underrated. His selling, just the way he could put over an atomic drop like that and then sell having his hair messed up. I don't think everyone in this day and age, with all the things that people look at in wrestling, really appreciate and give the credit that is deserved to the Honky Tonk Man for how great he really was.
Yeah, he really had his shtick down, and it works, and his sell jobs were great. He wasn't the biggest bumper in the world. He wasn't taking backflips over the top rope or anything like that, but why do you have to if you don't need to? I mean, just the sell job here and getting his hair messed with. It was plenty enough to get a good response from the crowd. And the IC champion, he has to bail in order to mentally and emotionally recover from such humiliation here. And after some stalling by hiding in the ropes, Honky is going to find himself in trouble once again as Beefer with the 10 turnbuckle smashes of doom and plants Honk with a big high knee And again, the IC champion back out to the floor. As Beefer going to snap Honky back in over the top rope and sidesteps a honky tonk knee lift, but Brutus missing a running elbow drop, and it looks like the IC champion finally going to take control of this one. Lots of stomping and punching. Classic Honky Tonk Man offense right there. And then a nice fist drop. But Honky elects to dance rather than make the cover. As Gorilla Monsoon states, could come back to haunt him, Jess. We'll have to wait and see. As Honky then distracting Jimmy Corderas so Jimmy Hart can sneak in and choke on Brutus Beefcake. Honky then looks to go for his shake, rattle, and roll, but elects not to do it, confusing even the announcers. I wrote, that was kind of weird. But it all makes sense in just a moment as Honky lands a few more shots and sets up for his finisher again, this time closer to the ropes. I wrote, now I see. Rather than drag him over to the ropes and just do the damn move, he just broke the hold and went back to commencing to beating down on Brutus and then locking it in again where they needed to be.
Yeah, that was, like I say, it looked weird in the moment, but it was definitely more subtle than the other options of doing it and then realize, like, oh, hell, we're way too far from the ropes. So,
well,
veteran move.
I guess he got used to hitting all the job guys in the middle of the ring with it. They're standing in the middle of the ring. He's already doing the shake and rattle, and then he realizes, well, now it's going to look really stupid if we walk 8 feet to the right. So let's start over. And that they do.
His head was shake, rattle, shit.
Yeah, that could have been it. As this time, we do see the shake and the rattle, but as Honky begins to roll, Beefcake grabs hold of the top rope. See, I told you it made sense. And Honky going to deliver the swinging neck breaker, I guess you'd say, to himself. Honky taking the bump, but the barber still on his feet. Good spot.
It was, and you were talking about Brutus's offense a little bit ago. Honky did a really good job of making Brutus look good and selling Brutus's offense, which wasn't a lot to it.
Not a lot. Yeah.
I mean, when you break down what it actually is, but Honky made it all look good. He sold it well. I think Brutus looked better in his feud with Honky than he did with many other people he was in the ring with. That's for sure.
I don't think Brutus is going to have the luxury of having a really good opponent again. Probably not until Mr. Perfect that I can think of off the top of my head.
No, I think you're spot on there. And, if you can't look good against Mr. Perfect, then it's time to take it to the house.
Right, which is why he went out on the beach that one faithful summer day, July the 4th, 1990. He was just looking for trouble, and he found it. Guys, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, seriously, we didn't see the finishers weren't really countered back in the day. And Brutus grabbing hold of that rope and Honky taking a really good bump here. I don't recall Honky ever selling it like that, where he went for the swinging neck breaker and the guy holds onto the top rope like that. So that might be the first time I ever noticed it.
Yeah, that's the first time I remember seeing it. And to me, that was a great way out of the shake, rattle, and roll, and Honky sold it well. Like you said, I mean, he had put down so many job guys. I don't think we had seen anybody get out of a shake, rattle, and roll up to this point, and certainly not like that.
And typically, I think Jake might have done it, but it would have been like a backdrop counter, I think, if I remember correctly with that. But this was definitely unique and definitely different, especially in the New York territory. Great counter here. Down goes Honky Tonk. Up stands the barber. And now it's time for Brutus to fire up with some good punches. And he nearly backdrops Honky Tonk out of the ring there. I don't think the Honky Tonk Man was going for that, but hell of a bump there as the IC champion going to beg off on his knees. But Brutus staying on top and locks in the sleeper hold. And it looks like the champion may go down just like that. We may be witnessing our very first title change of the night, as Honky Tonk Man is clearly going to Dreamland. And Jimmy Hart, he senses it on the outside. The Colonel jumping up on the apron and nailing the referee from behind, knocking the ref down and out with his megaphone. What a spot. Evil Jimmy.
Not today, baby. Not today.
Oh, Jimmy, that's the other show. That's regional wrestling. Of course, we know Jimmy Hart leaving regional wrestling for the Wrestling Memory Grenade era. So the WWF, I should say. But so Jimmy Hart gets involved here, knocking the ref out cold while Brutus has the sleeper hold applied. And Beefcake, he gets wind of what happened and releases the sleeper. I wrote, why, Gene? Just leave it on. Just lock in the sleeper and hold it for 10 minutes. Honky will never get up. You could be the new champion. But the barber, he seems more interested at this point in cutting Honky's hair than winning the gold. So we go back to this again. Even the crowd more interested and Brutus going outside for those trusty scissors.
Yeah, and I guess that helps take away any lack of logic or anybody going like, now why would you let go? Because most of the people, they wanted to see Honky get that haircut, like you said, even more so than losing the Intercontinental title. So they were all for it. They're like, yes, get the scissors, cut that greasy hair.
I remember the first time I watched this, I didn't see WrestleMania 4 live, but I saw it pretty quickly thereafter. And I remember watching the match, and the minute he went outside to cut hair, or went to go get the scissors to cut the hair, I thought to myself, well, you're forfeiting the match here, because by the end of this, you're going to be disqualified if nothing else is called at the very least. So it felt like the match was over, even though it wasn't. And I was just really upset that, you would just throw away a title opportunity, because much like you, I was a fan as a kid of the Barber, and I wanted to see the title change. I was not a Honky Tonk Man fan, but at this point in the match, the Barber going to leap out of the ring to retrieve his scissors, but Jimmy Hart, he gets them first. Hart steals Brutus' cutting bag, and since Jimmy knows that quick rule of thumb, never run with scissors in your hands, he instead elects to try to crawl under the ring with Brutus' bag, but Brutus snagging Hart by his jacket, yanking him up back onto his feet, Beefcake then bending Hart over the steel steps and mounts his back. Insert your Terry Garvin School of Self-Defense jokes here, guys. And Brutus begins cutting off the hair of the Colonel.
No, baby, not my hair, baby, not my hair. I was in the gentries, baby. I was in the gentries.
The gentry, I love it. Keep on dancing, baby. Oh man. But I couldn't believe this, because the first time I saw this, I remember him cutting Jimmy's hair, but I really didn't realize how much he cut. Jimmy let him take a few locks off here.
Yeah, he was running around with that god-awful beret on there for a little while. It was quite
so he borrowed it from Frenchie Martin.
Stealing my gimmick.
But Brutus laid it in here. He's got Jimmy Hart bent over the steel steps, cutting his hair off. And Jimmy Hart was always a trooper. He'd do whatever Vince and them asked of him. I'm sure he got a little extra pay in this as well, but you never really heard Jimmy Hart say the word no when it came to business.
No, and I mean, I guess it's, served him well over the years, because, Jimmy was around for a long, long time, and I'm sure that's what helped win the loyalty of the Hulkster brother, who he still works for in some shape or form to this very day. So it's paid off for him.
I have no idea how that whole thing works, but whatever. As we continue on here.
Weed, baby. Somebody's got to get the weed to the building, baby.
There you go. Absolutely. Jimmy Hart's still a heel here, though, back in 1988, as his hair goes flying everywhere, and Peggy Sue hilariously trying to revive the Honky Tonk Man by using CPR. Apparently he stopped breathing. He's dead in the ring. And when that doesn't work, she finds a bucket of water conveniently sitting at ringside and dumps it on Honky's head to revive him before Brutus can get a hold of him. So Honky going to live to fight another day, going to keep the hair, all thanks to Peggy Sue and her quick work.
In later years, they probably would have had to go back and give a disclaimer and be like, okay, kids, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're having to give somebody CPR, if that doesn't revive them, you can't just dump a bucket of water on them and they come back. It just don't work that way. But
I thought you were going to say, if they're breathing, you don't need to give them CPR. That too. If they fainted or been passed out, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe a little smelling salts.
Peggy Sue's a dancer, not a nurse. Okay, she's doing her best.
And they didn't know a whole lot about CPR back in the 1950s anyway. So we'll just keep on dancing here with this show. Meanwhile, we see every official backstage out here trying to help up the still knocked out Jimmy Corderas. Brutus coming after Honky Tonk, but the referee's going to hold him back. And with the referee still out, we are informed that the Honky Tonk Man has in fact been disqualified due to Jimmy Hart's interference. So your winner of the match is indeed Brutus the Barber Beefcake, but the title stays with the champion. So the match goes somewhere around 6.5 minutes when the referee goes down, and another 3 minutes of shenanigans afterwards.
Wah, wah, wah. Oh, hey, that felt that they squeezed a lot into that total of 9.5 minutes of action and plus shenanigans there. A lot went on there.
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't like it when I was a kid. I came to see Brutus at least win the title, if not win the title and cut his hair. And I mean, I guess cutting Jimmy's hair was a consolation prize. But
absolutely, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, I remember watching this too. It just fell flat for me, even as a kid. Like I expected more. The match goes short, which with these two in there, that's totally cool. But at the same time, the finish, I wasn't a big fan of that. Yeah, Jimmy Hart got his hair cut, but you were wanting the Honky Tonk. You wanted to see Honky Tonk get his hair cut. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second, but a couple of notes here. First, a lot of people ask, why so much teasing of cutting Honky's hair if it wasn't in the cards, Gene? Not even a simple snip, which, that kind of bothered me. Like, you mean Honky couldn't take a little off the bottom and the back? It wouldn't have made that big of a difference. Well, you probably know better than a lot of people. You're a Memphian, or at least you're a Memphian super fan, and you've worked around the territories and things. You kind of know probably a little bit about Wayne Ferris, even if you haven't had a lot of dealings with him. I'm sure you've heard a lot of stories. He was eager to cooperate if the price was right.
Yes. I'm sure you could have bought that hair for the right amount of money.
Oh, yeah. Honky has said it in recent years in shoot interviews. He said that he would have gladly had his hair cut if they'd offered him more money, but it just never came up. They never even offered it to him, the option, which I thought was crazy. You would have thought, hey, you want to do this? Yeah, sure, I'll do it for another extra $5,000, or, I'm just making up numbers here, but yeah. I mean, yeah, it would have been very interesting to see a bald Honky Tonk Man. I mean, he would have got a lot of heat with that, but I would like to have seen where they went from there without the Elvis hair intact. But yeah, Honky says they simply never even offered the idea to him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe from Vince's point of view is like, okay, that's a great moment at WrestleMania. It's a great moment for the barber character, but what the hell do we do with a bald-headed Elvis after that?
Could you?
But like you said, there could have been some good heat. I mean, you could have got the most phony, awful Elvis wig.
I was going to say, yeah, one of those jumbo-sized Elvis wigs, the novelty Elvis wigs.
Yes, and put the boxing, headgear over like Buddy Roberts and Angle would do years later. I mean, there's a lot they could have done with that. But then again, I guess Vince didn't want to pony up the cash.
Well, Honky Tonk retains the title for now. And in recent years, referee Jimmy Corderas also talked about this match. He said, now, Jimmy Hart's megaphone shot, it didn't hurt him at all, but he was so pumped up this very first WrestleMania that he had ever been a part of. He wanted to make his bump look good, so he went down hard. So hard, in fact, he bounced his head off the mat, and he knocked himself out cold, which is why you see the referees literally trying to move him, and he's just not moving. And he said he had to be dragged away from ringside.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, because you can tell, I mean, the shot with the megaphone didn't look bad, but you certainly knew he didn't legit get knocked out. But I was like, man, he's selling the hell out of that. Look at him. But no, so he wasn't selling. He knocked himself out.
And everybody loves to embellish the stories. Lots of guys talk about, oh, I got knocked out, and you go and look, and they got hit in the shoulder or something like that. But in this instance, the way he plays dead here, I'm totally on board. I totally buy. If he was just working, kudos to him, because those referees couldn't even get him to move. There wasn't even like a hand gesture. Like, I'm okay, guys. It was just flat out cold, as he says he was.
No, he was like a bag of rocks being
dragged away from ringside. The feud going to continue on, though, no doubt about it. We're going to see more from these two in the weeks and months to come, as apparently the hunt for Vanna goes on. We go back again, this time Bob Uecker with a big, no, scratch that, make it a giant surprise.
Oh.
Hi again, everybody. This thing is really getting kind of serious now. I haven't been able to locate Vanna White, and I was supposed to... Hi, Andre. Hey, my good buddy.
Vanna, you get me. You get the giant, the only professional wrestler who's still undefeated. And Hulk Hogan, I'm proud to be it, because now Ted DiBiase is on his way up. That's why he paid me for, to keep you out of the tournament, Hogan. And you are. And I know one thing, and that's why the people go to know too, and that's why they go to remember. You are the ex-champion, Hogan.
Well, there you have it. I still haven't found
Yes,
Vanna White.
The ex-champion. Don't worry about Vanna White. Now, Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania is over.
Hey, how about getting your foot off my shoulder?
Hey!
Well, Uecker, he didn't find Vanna, but he did find the eighth wonder of the world. Andre the Giant bragging about his matchup with Hulk Hogan earlier on, admitting the plan all along. Ted DiBiase paid Andre simply to keep Hulk out of the tournament by any means. And that he did, Gene. That's ensuring the $1 Million Man that he would not face Hogan in the semifinals, and guaranteeing that Hulk could not walk out of here with the WWF title. referring to Hulk as the ex-champion. Ha 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 ha.
Patented laugh.
Well, the storyline's there. That we wondered what was DiBiase's plan all along. Why would he want Andre in the tournament? Why would he want Andre to work Hulk Hogan in the same bracket as the $1 Million Man? Well, we get the answer. Andre explains it right here. And this promo is memorable for other reasons, but let's not look past the actual story they're telling first. And that Andre, his plan all along was simply to keep Hogan from heading to the semis by any means.
Because let's face it, if Andre would have beaten Hogan, from a kayfabe perspective, if Andre would have beaten Hogan and then he goes on to face DiBiase in that bracket, would we have gotten the original finger poke of doom prior to the WCW era?
That was the question they teased a few times on TV. What happens if DiBiase meets Andre? Because he can't sell his spot in the matchup. They said they had a plan. They never divulged that plan, but I guess we'll never know. But that would have been interesting. The very first finger poke of doom. I don't know that fans in 1988 would have known what to do with that. But man, the heat you would have got as the $1 Million Man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what a visual that would have been to see Andre just lay down for DiBiase and let him pin him, because we've already proven he can't just forfeit it or surrender it, if you will. I think's the verbiage he used on the main event. So, but anyway, it served its purpose and it all made sense. Like, okay, yeah, he blocked Hogan and that's all we really needed. We didn't need Andre to win. We just needed Hogan not to.
Exactly. And of course, the awesome ending there that has to be seen to truly be appreciated and loved. A classic piece of wrestling history. The GIF of all GIFs, if you will. Andre choking Bob Uecker. What a sell job by Uecker. Hey, would you mind getting your foot off my shoulder? And Andre just choking the shit out of Uecker. And the faces he makes that follow, just amazing. Just a great memory of WrestleMania history.
Man, the phrase WrestleMania moment may be one of the most overused phrases of all time in wrestling. Lord knows, when you think WrestleMania 4, you picture, Savage and Liz and Hogan and all those types of people. But to me, one of the most memorable moments of WrestleMania 4 and one of the most memorable WrestleMania moments of all time is that shot of Andre.
Well, it finds its way into videos time after time. Whenever they're selling WrestleMania, whenever they're selling history, Bob Uecker and Andre the Giant, just that quick piece of footage. But I love it. And you're right. Outside of that shot that we know we're going to see at the end of the show with the, the Mega Powers and Liz up high in the air. Outside of that, I'd say this is the second most memorable spot on the entire card in regards to visual memory. And the funniest part of the whole thing is, you got guys doing triple Lindy's now, right, on AEW and things like that, trying to get heat and trying to get pops from the fans. And just something as simple as this by a non-wrestler, one of the most memorable pieces of footage in history.
Exactly. Two pop culture icons, for different reasons, but they come together and, they're just, what a fun moment. And like you said, though, it sometimes gets lost to history that Andre, that promo was a pivotal part of this whole story. So that, the things he said before was a very important piece of this whole DiBiase Savage puzzle and Hogan. But then that fun ending, you kind of forget about all that. You just kind of remember that.
Right.
That,
absolutely.
Like you said, that gift.
I'm just glad they had time to squeeze that in and they weren't like short on time and we got short of that. We never got to see that because that would have been a crying shame. As we continue on now, we got a Coliseum video exclusive. It appears the heels have made their way backstage. It's Craig DeGeorge, or Croak DeGeorge. It sounds like a little horse here. Got a frog in his throat. Craig DeGeorge standing by with the Intercontinental Champ, still IC Champion, Honky Tonk Man, and a now, halfway hairless Jimmy Hart.
All right, Gorilla, we've been trying to get a hold of Mathis out. Jimmy Hart, come on over here. That was most embarrassing from our worldwide audience.
Look, I look like little Lulu. Look at the back of my head. Don't worry, Jimmy. You covered up. You don't let him see it. You cover your head up. Don't you ever let him see that, Jimmy Hart. It's going to get hard over this,
Most embarrassing moment of anybody's life. Right. The most embarrassing moment. Brutus and Barbara will stoop to any lengths. Humiliating is not the word for it. Why don't you use some bigger and better adjectives than that? Cover it up, Jimmy. Don't let anybody see it. All I can tell you, Brutus and Barbara, you did what you said you was going to do. You said you'd do some strutting and some cutting, but you did it on Jimmy Hart. You didn't do it on me. You didn't beat the Honky Tonk Man. You said you were going to put me to sleep. You did it, but you didn't win. I still got the belt. I'm still the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. I'm the greatest of all time. I'll get you for this, Barber. Don't be sorry.
Let's get up to the ring. So Jimmy Hart having fits about the haircut, and rightfully so. Damn that barber. But Honky Tonk says that Brutus, he promised some strutting and some cutting, but he did it to poor Jimmy, not to the Honky Tonk Man. Brutus also promised to leave with the IC title, but that didn't happen either. Something tells me this feud will indeed continue, but Honky makes some valid points, and we talked about that on the Memphis show. These heels pointing things out, it's almost a babyface like, hey, you said you were going to do this, you didn't do it. You said you were going to do this, that didn't happen either. It kind of hurt Brutus a little bit for me.
It really, yeah, man, it really does. Like, there's times that the heel needs to just let's not draw any more attention to that fag than we have to, because you're making that babyface look like a real asshole right now, and he doesn't need any help. Right.
Well, I was bummed out, coming out of that match, but then we got that awesome Andre and Euchre spot, and I forgot all about it, and then they remind us here on Coliseum Video. But it is what it is. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that as the weeks go on. But right now, with 1 full hour left in the pay-per-view, we're off to the 6-man tag team action. The match everyone has been waiting for. It's the Islanders and Bobby the Brain Heenan taking on the Birdman Koko Beware and the British Bulldogs, with Frankie the Macaw and Matilda, the Wonder Dog, pal. It's Matilda's return, Gene.
And what a return it was. I mean, my goodness, they milked that. We're writing letters.
3 months in the making, pal.
That's right. We're writing postcards to a dog to make the dog feel better, because that's exactly how it was worded. I couldn't help but picture Davey Boy or Dynamite. Okay, Matilda, this one reads.
This one says, this one's from little Bobby. I don't remember if it was Jesse or Bobby. I feel like it was Jesse, but one of them said something on TV, when they were doing that whole shtick with the write-in for Matilda, and they were talking about, how, I think it was Jesse, because Vince responded. So Jesse's like, well, how the hell, does Matilda read those things? And Vince says something like, well, Davey Boy and Dynamite read them to her. And then Jesse's like, I think it's the other way around. So I just thought that was pretty good. So yeah, good stuff from Jesse Ventura as always. But if you don't know the history here by now, guys, what is wrong with you? The Islanders and Bobby Heenan dog-napped Matilda at the end of last year. President Jack Tunney then threatening to suspend the heels until the dog was returned. Then miraculously, 1 week later, Matilda immediately returns, but she wasn't doing so well, as you alluded to, Gene. So we get a Get Well Matilda address bit. Going to get your address, everyone. And thus that leads to her recovery. All those great stories, all those great get well wishes everybody sent in for Matilda, the Wonder Dog, pal. And so here she is back in action in the corner of the baby faces. Meanwhile, heading into this also, something a lot of people don't know was on an edition of Primetime Wrestling, Bobby Heenan also was caught trying to bird nap Frankie during a match between Ravishing Rick Rude and Koko Beware. It was quite the sight watching Bobby Heenan run up the aisle with a perch and a bird attached to it before Koko finally catches him, returning with said bird. So Frankie was saved, but Heenan's bottom line here, he hates pets, he hates animals, and they have no place in wrestling.
To circle back to how you started that, if you don't know the history of the Islanders, Heenan and Matilda, you did not watch any WWF television in the first quarter of 1988, because holy cow, did that get a ton of TV time. Just behind the whole Hogan-Andre DiBiase angle was the Islanders, Matilda, and Heenan angle. My goodness,
there weren't that many feuds coming into WrestleMania. We had the tournament, which was the main deal, and then the Battle Royal. The tag team title match had no backstory. It really just a little bit for Honky and Brutus, just some confrontations, nothing really there. This is probably, the next match up that had the most play. And Warrior Hercules, the snapping of the chain. But yeah, I'd say this definitely by far had more play than any of the other matches outside of the tournament, which is just crazy.
Well, the invisible dog leash was really
fun.
Oh,
that was classic.
I was looking through some of the magazines that you uploaded to Patreon on the WrestleCopia Patreon, and that picture in the back of the one magazine where they show the Islanders there with Bobby and Haku or Tama one's down there allegedly petting the invisible dog. It was fun stuff.
Oh, there's one where Haku, it's comedy. There's nothing there. It's invisible. I get it. But Haku's like paintbrushing the dog, kicking the dog. And it's kind of funny, but it's not, but it is. I don't know.
Yeah. he would still probably get canceled for it in today's time. You can't even do that to an invisible dog.
Can't do that to an invisible dog today. Yeah.
It identifies as a real dog, brother.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, man. Anywho.
Back to 1988.
Back to 88. So they find a way to work Koko into the storyline simply to get Bobby Heenan into the matchup. And now for the first time in over a year, the Brain going to return to the ring here. And out come the heels. And what is Bobby Heenan wearing, Gene? An attack dog suit. Protective gear. Super intelligent. Brilliant even. Well, after all, he is the Brain.
That's right. How else are you going to protect yourself from what he called a rabid mutt like Matilda than a dog attack suit? Which, good Lord, can you imagine how hot?
He talked about that quite a bit. Yeah, he's talked about that. I think I got some notes at the end of the match in regards to that. But and if only Vince did guest commentary for this one. Nobody sold this better than Vince McMahon. I really wish he had been out here for this match. Matilda the Wonder Dog. Yeah. You can hear it, WrestleMania. Matilda returns.
You would think Vince was fixing to have a huge push for Matilda the way he oversold Matilda every time he got the chance.
Tag her in. I love it. What a maneuver. Just jumped right on him, humped him right in the ear. This silly storyline, though, finally getting a blow off. At least I hope so. As we continue here, Matilda chasing Bobby Heenan out of the ring to begin things. So far, so good, as Matilda is back where she belongs and on her perch at ringside. Frankie on his perch as well. And as I notice that Ivana Trump has finally disappeared. She's no longer sitting ringside, so she finally leaves after a Brutus Beefcake Honky Tonk Man match. Don't know that I could blame her, but noticeably absent now, and she does not return for the remainder of the show. She wasn't paying attention in the Battle Royal, Gene, so I can't believe she lasted this long.
Yeah, exactly. She had checked out early, so I wonder if that was just she demanded to leave, or it looked so bad on camera how indifferent she was that somebody in the back was like, can we please get her out of sight?
Yeah, I wonder what conversation she was having with Donald during intermission, because she comes back after intermission for at least a few matches here. But I wrote, how dare she miss Matilda's return? Maybe she didn't want to be shown up by the bitch.
You gotta stay for Matilda. Matilda's coming back. It's gonna be so great. Everybody's been talking about it.
Well, I have to believe that was the conversation, because Donald Trump is going nowhere for this one. And I never hear a bell as this one gets going. Dynamite Kid grabbing Tama on the top rope here. Going to slingshot him in over the top rope. Tama taking an awesome flying stomach bump in, basically slingshot style. Leaping over the top rope, splashing the mat as Dynamite Kid takes down both Islanders, then catapulting Tama over the turnbuckle and out to the floor. And now it's Davey Boy and Haku's turn in the ring. They hit opposite ropes, rushing at each other. I wouldn't want to be in the middle of that. Full force collide. Davey Boy Smith on top of Haku for a crossbody block, going to get a 2 count. Then a crucifix, also getting Davey a near fall as well. Smith, however, pulled back to the heel corner by Haku, where he's worked over briefly. Tama then in with a arm wringer, which Davey Boy counters. I don't know if you really noticed this. Back in this period, and I got to watch a lot of it in 87, but Davey Boy Smith may have had the most awesome gorilla press there was. I don't care about the slam part, but just the gorilla press, because I don't know what those guys were on, but he could clean jerk anybody up into the air with ease. I mean, just in one fluid motion, and he does it here with Tama. Just amazing. Out of an arm wringer, just fluidly picks him up in a great gorilla press slam, slams him down to the mat. I know people are going to say, well, the Warrior, that was his finisher. Yeah, and the gorilla press drop, and I was a huge Warrior fan, but nothing looked better than a Davey Boy Smith press.
No, Warrior's press never came close to Davey Boy's, as far as, like you say, how smoothly he just jerked them straight up, and you could tell it was all him, because there was a lot of Warrior presses that you could tell he was getting some help on.
Yeah, he had trouble with some, yeah.
Exactly. That Hogan press from WrestleMania 6. Ooh.
Well, that's rough, but I give him kudos, both of those guys, for making that work. You really don't see either one of those guys really making that happen, but they did it.
But it was just like, this ain't happening. Oh, my God, he got him up there. But it was a team effort for sure. But, man, I just want to say real quick that you talk about a tag team that, as an 11-year-old, I didn't appreciate in the moment, but over the years, going back and watching them, the Islanders are it, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So good.
Yeah, I watched Haku regress, if you will, as time went on. He got a little thicker and wasn't really pulling out all this stuff, and I was always a Tama fan. I was a big Tama fan, but, even at Survivor Series 87, they're in there forever in that matchup. And I remember going back and watching it later years in Coliseum Video and going, oh, why the Islanders? Why are they in there for 20 minutes straight? And, but going back in real time and watching their build throughout 1987, their heel turn and just all of their matches, they were really, really good.
They really were. I would have liked to, in retrospect, seen them get at least a short run with the titles, but it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, there can only be
underrated.
Right, there can only be one tag team champion at a time, and given what's coming up here, I think they saw the writing on the wall in regards to what's going to happen with them in the future in regards to being tag team champions, and things are going to change over the next month or so. But right here, right now, it's six-man tag team action as Tama wisely going to go to the eyes of Smith after taking that big press slam, bringing Haku back in, but Smith managing to escape and tags in a fresh Birdman as Koko Beware takes Haku down with a dropkick, blasting Tama off the apron. Where then, with both Islanders in the ring, delivering an awesome headlock takeover and head scissor takeover simultaneously on the heels. First time I ever saw that spot in my life was when I watched this WrestleMania 4 video cassette, and I thought he executed it perfectly, but I just popped for it huge when the first time I saw Koko land the double takeover.
Very cool spot, and for the time especially, just not something you saw. So yeah, it really stood out.
No, you definitely didn't see this in New York City. So, I mean, watching Koko bust that out here, really cool, very fluid, looked great. The first time I saw it, I said, wow, I didn't even think that was possible. Of course, as time would progress, I would see 450 splashes and things of that nature, and obviously we know where we are today. But back in those days, that was a high spot, guys.
Shoot, yeah, man, that was as good as it got as far as high flying action went, and especially you got three people involved in one move like that.
Right. So Dynamite Kid going to tag back in at this point, but runs into a Haku foot in the corner, and now Bobby the Brain Heenan going to tag in for the very first time in the match with Dynamite Kid down and out on the mat. Of course he would. And Heenan, with his attack suit on, begins laying it in, whacking and stomping on Dynamite, as Gorilla Monsoon feels the attack suit should be illegal, with all the additional buckles and things all over it. But Bobby going right at the Dynamite Kid here. Kudos to Bobby Heenan. That is until Dynamite delivers one shot to Bobby's gut, and Heenan quickly and wisely tagging out, getting some great heel heat in the process.
Yeah, I mean, just great psychology there. I mean, I just absolutely love Heenan, and that's a great example of why right there. He's kicking and stomping. He's in control. One shot. All right, that's enough. I'm out.
I loved it. Great storytelling here. He's wisely does not get in the ring until the man is down and out on the mat. And of course, he tags out immediately after getting punched one time in the gut. But in between, I also give Bobby credit. I mean, for the lack of ability to do anything on offense with this attack suit on, covering his hands, his arms, everything. I thought he showed a lot of aggression in there. So he actually came in like he meant to do some damage. It wasn't just stomping a cockroach kind of manager type stuff.
Exactly, because, Jimmy Hart, which, Jimmy's a smaller guy and kind of is presented as a weakling, if you will. But, yeah, Jimmy would do those spots times when he would wrestle. He'd run in and hit those little ginger kicks and then run right back over. But, Bobby had intent behind his blows until, he got hit, and then it was time to go. But, yeah, like I said, he was putting something into it.
So Tama back in the ring now, puts Dynamite down with the pump splash, the Vader bomb in the corner. But as he goes for the move, he lands onto the knees of the Dynamite Kid. And it's a hot tag back to the Birdman. Koko Beware in, and the crowd literally doesn't make a sound for the hot tag. And that's not me trying to knock Koko. That's just showing you where we are on the card and showing you where this crowd is at right now. A hot tag literally made to Koko here. It's like this crowd has no idea what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's the downside of the high rollers being there at ringside. They're not into this. They don't know who Koko is. They don't know who the Bulldogs are.
They don't know what a hot tag is.
Yeah, they don't know what a hot tag is. And this has been going on for quite a long time for people who are just there because
right.
They got tickets,
Yeah, absolutely. Ware, though, going to whip the Islanders into each other in the middle of the ring, but telegraphing a backdrop as Haku going to take over, holding Ware, while Tama taking a shot off the top rope. And then once again, Bobby Heenan tagging back in to take advantage, pounding away on the Birdman, stomping him down, but Ware beginning to fight back, flapping his wings, if you will, and reverses an Irish whip, sending Bobby chest first to the corner. Heenan backing out, getting a drop kick, sending him back to the buckle once more, as the Islanders now see their manager in trouble and attack the Birdman, thus drawing the Bulldogs in as well. The referee trying to usher the Bulldogs back to their corner, allowing the Islanders to drop Ware in the middle of the ring, then pick their manager up, Bobby Heenan in the air, Haku and Tama, then slam Bobby Heenan chest first down on top of the Birdman as the referee turns around and makes the 1, 2, 3. Match goes 7.5 minutes, and the heels go over. Bobby Heenan pins the Birdman.
Wow. I mean, I remember being shocked even back then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that here's Matilda's grand return. All this has been going on. I mean, you think this is a slam dunk. Babyfaces has got to win here. And not only did the heels win, but Bobby gets the pin.
Yeah, I was devastated. Same thing, you know, it's just a bad deal for the British Bulldogs at WrestleMania when it comes to six-man tags. The year before, they lose to Danny Davis, of all people, scoring the pin. Yes. And here this time, it's Bobby Heenan pinning Koko B. Ware. It kind of shows you where Koko is on the card as well. But at the same time, I loved Bobby Heenan. You know, I wasn't like, I loved every heel. I wasn't like a heel fan. I didn't just love a heel because they were a heel, but there were certain heels you just had to love, and Bobby Heenan was absolutely one of them. I think a lot of that had to do with his primetime shtick with Gorilla Monsoon as well. I just love those guys together. But Bobby Heenan, I wasn't happy with this. I thought, this is Matilda's return, and that was what I wrote here in my notes. I go, that was Matilda's revenge? Bobby pins Koko? While the dog suit was basically a genius idea, great gimmick for Bobby Heenan, it hindered his awesome bumping skills in here. He couldn't do any of the cool Bobby Heenan bumping in the ring, which really hurt this match. And I love Bobby, but I was really shocked here that the outcome. Like you said, I really thought the baby faces were going over. It's only the way. It felt like it was the only way you're going to go. Matilda returned. She needs her revenge. The Bulldogs need the revenge after months of this nonsense, carrying around that invisible dog leash. And Bobby Heenan goes over here.
Yeah, it started to feel like that this was going to like weird 6-man tags with, like a manager or a former referee is going to become like the Bulldog spot at WrestleMania, where
just crazy to think.
And it looks like, last year coming into WrestleMania 3, they'd been screwed out of the tag titles. They're coming looking for revenge on the Harts and Danny Davis, plus the belts aren't on the line. Again, it looks like slam dunk. Bulldogs and Tito are going to get the win here in the non-title. Then in the title rematches, the Harts will go over, but they got to win here, right? Nope. Same deal here. You come around to WrestleMania 4, like, all right, well, we know what happened to the Bulldogs last year, but oh my gosh, they've ate shit for how many months now? It's time for revenge. And then here we are, it just falls flat. I know that they probably didn't want to really beat the Islanders, but you could have pinned Heenan, and it's not going to hurt Heenan. It's not going to hurt the Islanders, and people would have been happy. Even if the house crowd didn't really know or give a shit, at least the pay-per-view and home video crowd would have been happy at least.
Yeah, I only thing I can come up with is here they wanted to get heat on Bobby Heenan because, it just seemed odd that the Islanders would go over in this instance, but also at the same time, the Bulldogs, arguably the most over babyface team they have, or certainly the best babyface team they have. Now, Rick Martel and Tito were tremendous as individual talents, but as a tag team, it's not really working. They're just kind of spinning in place at this point. They haven't really given them much to do. But the British Bulldogs, they were over as tag team champions. And I know Dynamite suffered the back injury, but they seem to be, well, I don't want to say 100% because Dynamite never really returns to 100%, but they're pretty much back to where they're going to be for the rest of their career at this point, which is pretty damn good for New York standards. Like you could mask Dynamite Kid's injuries in the WWF.
Right. Yeah. And not the style that you were used to seeing him do other places. But like you say here, yeah, you can cover it up.
Yeah, in fact, he still looks like an amazing talent here in the WWF. He does so many cool things. But yeah, unfortunately, the heels go over. But Tama, not long for the company post pay-per-view. We'll be talking about that in the weeks to come here on the Grenade. But post-match, Davey Boy going to lead Matilda up the aisle, chasing Bobby Heenan. Heenan taking a bump, and Matilda placed on top of. She won't even attack him. Davey Boy has to literally pick her up and lay her on top of Bobby Heenan. She's just not cooperating here. And now some fun tidbits with this, as Bruce Pritchard has said that Bobby Heenan hated that dog suit gimmick, and Heenan pretty much confirmed that as well. He said it was super hot, as you can tell. We will see that here. If you watch the Coliseum video version, the exclusive interview post-match with Bobby Heenan, he is sweating profusely coming backstage after this matchup. But Heenan, it never really worked. The dog didn't show up, so to speak. Matilda was back, but I guess, maybe she was more mundane. Now, it was also pretty obvious, though, as both Bruce and Bobby recalled in past interviews, that Heenan tried everything out there to get Matilda to attack him, and nothing would work. Heenan said they even practiced it in the locker room before the match, and she just wasn't biting. Literally. Here's a direct quote from Bobby. He said, "At the end, I turned to run down the aisle, and I saw Davey Boy trying to force Matilda to run with me. I couldn't go anymore, so I fell down in the aisle. Matilda got on top of me and started sniffing the dog suit and began to hump me. I walked back to the dressing room and told the boys, don't worry about the payoff. I already got screwed."
Oh, classic Heenan.
I don't know that last part happened.
I kind of liked Bobby, though, because, there were a few instances where
she would go after Jimmy.
Matches with the Heart, she got
she went after all of them.
Jimmy, she got after Slick. She ripped it. They showed a close-up where she had ripped some of, Slick's pants on one of those matches. But
the
Bobby,
story of Slick's broken arm in 1986 was Matilda.
Yeah.
She went after him hardcore. He got so scared he tried to jump up on the top rope to sit on the top rope, and he tumbled backwards down to the concrete, broke his arm. For anybody wondering why Slick was rocking a cast there for a while back in 1986. But I agree with you also, having done so much of 1987, Matilda really went after the Harts and Jimmy Hart quite a few times. I mean, had she got a hold of him, she would have left a mark.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, my wife was watching this with me when I was watching it, and she's like, he's practically dragging that dog after Heenan and throwing him on him.
Throwing him on, yeah, exactly. Whew, man, that was fun times, man. I brought you in and wanted you to do the euchre role at the Battle Royal, man, and I thought, what else would be a fun time with you? And first thing that came to my mind had to be the 6-man tag team match. But as I was doing the research and as I was reviewing this stuff and writing everything down, I said, you know what? Gene has fun with that Jimmy Hart voice too. And then I just thought, those are back-to-back matches. It was fit for you, Gene, so I wanted to get you in here and cover these two big matches in between the tournament.
Dude, I appreciate it, and no joke, I mean this 100%. If you would have just said, hey, pick the matches you want to do, these are the matches I would have picked. So
that's awesome. Perfect. That's great to hear. That's tremendous, man. I appreciate you being part of part one. Lots of great feedback. I'm telling you, a lot of people. I had a guy, I wish I could remember the name of the listener. It's he said something along the lines of fastest 4 hours ever. He said it flew by. And I couldn't believe when I got done, I was like, I was kind of worried. I was like, oh man, 4 hours. Woof. It's going to be rough. But as I listened to it, I did it in 2 parts because, a little busy doing other things. But as I had the time, I said, damn, that really did fly by. Having all of you guys on the show and just adding your own input and all the research that I came up, all the news and the tidbits and talking with you guys about it, Jammie Ward's memories and the fun we had with the Battle Royal segment and Bob Uecker's commentary and all the different wrestlers. That had no business going longer than the Battle Royal did, but we got 45 minutes out of that segment, and it was fun from beginning to end.
It did. I listened to it at work one day, actually. I work by myself, so I can listen to podcasts and things of that nature at work. And I was working on I had a huge pile of invoices that day, and I was like, well, I'm going to listen to this while I'm working on it. And I'm the same way. It did not feel like 4 hours. It flew right by, and having all those different perspectives brought in throughout the show made it seem even, move even faster. So kudos on part one, and I'm, proud to have been a part of it and part two. And I'm excited to hear part two when it comes up.
Well, we appreciate you being here again. It was a great time. Gene Jackson, everyone. Gene, thank you so much for being a part of the entire WrestleMania 4 review.
Anytime, my friend.
All right, what a fun time, as expected there with Gene. Got to thank him again. Of all the matches, I thought this was a perfect spot for him on this episode of the Wrestling Memory Grenade. As we go off now to a Coliseum video exclusive promo directly after the match we just discussed. Here is one Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Give me that thing. Don't you say nothing to me. Don't say nothing. I'll do this. I don't need you or anybody else. Turn that on. Who's ever running this thing, turn it on. If you think that anybody's going to ever mistreat me like that again, if you think anybody's going to hook me into a match where somebody's going to stick a rabbit-infested animal on me, yes, I wore this animal attack suit If I hadn't had it on, I'd be in some hospital right now, and there's enough stitches in the world that would put me together. The dog almost ripped through it, tore the back out of it. The dog cannot be contained by one bulldog, two bulldogs, or even their friend Coco Beware. But you see, I survived because of my Islanders and myself, and because I used my brains. Okay, you threw me to the wolves, or you threw me to the dogs. You had them chew on me, rip me apart, growl. But I'm still standing here, and I'm still talking. And you're not going to take that away from me. As long as I got my brains and can talk and manage the people that I manage, nobody can stop me. And I mean nobody.
So Bobby arrives in that attack dog suit. No interviewer in sight. Bobby going to do this one solo, something he has no problem doing. And again, you can tell this was filmed immediately following the six-man tag team match. Bobby Heenan going ad-lib for us here on Coliseum Video, selling like Matilda actually ripped up his suit here, but we all know the real truth. Heenan stating that he used his brains, and as long as he has his mind and his family, nobody can stop him. Well, I won't argue that as we continue on, and as if this show wasn't long enough already, Howard Finkel introduces Jesse, the Body Ventura. And I know what you guys are thinking. Wait a minute, he's been on commentary all night long. Yes, but he wasn't showcased for the fans. And to my surprise, if you thought the crowd was dead, this is by far the loudest pop of the night as the Body leaves the commentary table to stand up on the edge of the upper deck to salute the crowd and pose. Flex those guns, Jesse. And Ventura, from the shots, from the cameras, he is really high up there and on the edge of a platform, making even my asshole pucker. Gorilla on commentary while Jesse's doing this, even mentioning one wrong step and Jesse won't be doing any wrestling, any acting, or anything ever again. Be careful, Body. And I'm more than cool with acknowledging Jesse Ventura, but did we really need this 3 hours into the pay-per-view? I don't know. And as we prepare now for the upcoming semifinals in the WWF Tag Team Championship match, last time around we talked a lot of childhood memories, WrestleMania IV, the Ultimate Warrior and Hercules. This time around, he's joining us for the semifinals, and one of our favorite tag teams of all time, Demolition, taking on Strikeforce. And now we go from one Jesse to another. As right now, I welcome my brother back for part 2 of the WrestleMania IV review. Jesse, are you there?
Slopadigas.
Well, I love the radio WWF reference, but I was hoping for a I am here. I set you up. I said, Jesse, are you there?
Well, that's the thing. You didn't say Jay in Cleveland, are you there? I would have definitely, I would have known what we were doing then. But yeah, I am here, brother. Good to be here, man.
Good call. So, well, it's good to have you back. We had a lot of great feedback last time around, and hopefully more the same this round. And speaking of rounds, see what I did there, guys? It's straight off to the semifinals now, Jesse, of the championship tournament. So good to have you back here for part 2 as we see Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, standing in the ring right out of the gate as the announcement is he has received a semifinal bye courtesy of the Hulk Andre double DQ in the quarters, and DiBiase going to go straight to the finals to meet the winner of our next match.
Yeah, I mean, you can see still sweating a little bit from the previous match, but you know, whatever, bring the guys out, let them wave to the crowd. I think they did the same thing with One Man Gang, right?
Right, yeah,
so,
yeah. I thought that was cool. I've seen a lot of people in current day shit on this. Like, why bring them out if you're just going to make this announcement? But I loved that as a kid. It was like, yeah, more of a wrestler on the screen. That's all I needed. It was good visual aid.
Yeah.
Plus, it gave DiBiase a reason to laugh, you know, gloat. And I thought that was really important there. Yeah.
He
But
probably wasn't a fan of putting his suit back on.
No, definitely. It was, I got to admit.
One of those tearaway suits, man.
Yeah. Oh, man. Wouldn't that be phenomenal? The tearaway suit. Nobody would even know what was going on. You go to an event, and when you're done, you know, you take your wife to the bedroom and just rip the suit off. Even give her the laugh, right?
Absolutely, brother.
Oh, man. But, you know, I was talking with Gene Jackson a little bit ago. We were doing the 6-man tag and the honky Brutus Beefcake match. And that epic Andre Bob Uecker segment took place in between where the Uke gets choked out by the Giant. But what gets lost by most is that Andre's comments during that promo about intentionally going to that double DQ with Hogan, noting that he was paid to make sure that Hulk Hogan didn't make it to the semifinals by any means, even if it meant eliminating himself. So very crafty move there by the $1 Million Man, a real heat getter. as he makes yet another successful purchase by basically buying Hulk Hogan's elimination.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Doesn't Ted DiBiase have, or as everyone likes to call him in this era, the multi-million-dollar man?
The multi-million-dollar man,
he has enough money to buy off the whole roster at this point. So
right, yeah. Well,
I guess in hindsight, it was smart for Andre to play it off like he meant for that to happen that way. So.
Well, I mean, I'm telling you, DiBiase, it was pretty crafty. Like I said, I mean, he could have faced the Hulkster in the semifinals and anything could have happened. And DiBiase basically guaranteed a shot straight to the finals to take on the winner of our next matchup, guys, which is the Macho Man, Randy Savage, with the lovely Miss Elizabeth, taking on the one-man gang with the Doctor of Style Slick. And it's not often that you see a battle of Angelo Poffo ICW alumni, but here we are in the WWF. It's the Macho Man, once upon a time taking on a guy by the name of Crusher Broomfield, now known as the One Man Gang, as Macho and Liz back out for the third time tonight, rocking matching black ensembles this time. Macho with some purple trim thrown in there for good measure. But I always thought as a kid, them changing their gear or their outfits between the rounds, that was so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like when they do the Oscars or anything like that with the wardrobe changes or the Super Bowl, I've noticed, the performers doing it that way. I know this doesn't mean anything in regards to wrestling, but I will say of all the intro outfits that Macho Man did don this night, I did like this black one probably the best just because of the way the green, and I think there's a little bit of purple like you mentioned in there. And then the black too, just like when he comes in and spins around the way the light hits it, man. I know that sounds a little queer, but I thought it looked pretty cool, man. I mean,
we're all big wrestling fans. People talk about their favorite belts, their favorite action figures. We can talk about your favorite Macho Man cape or what his look for the night. Absolutely,
yeah, I didn't see the all black all the time. That was kind of a rarity. I didn't see the black one.
Definitely some unique outfits coming out here for the Macho Man tonight, as he spared no expense to make him and his lovely wife, kayfabe guys, look great here for this night of action. As the bell sounds, Macho Man locking up with the big man as they struggle over to the ropes. Savage eventually landing an elbow to stun the big man, then grabs the gang by his beard for that running neck snap across the top rope. Macho leaping over the top rope out to the floor. Good bump by the gang too, by the way. Always loved that move by the Macho Man, though. Had to be hell on his knees, but I always love when Randy Savage would take that running leap over the top and just drop the guy across the throat first.
Yeah, I like that one. And then, obviously the double axe handle off the top. But both moves, I think, probably took a toll on his knees over the years, man. I couldn't do that.
Absolutely. All those leaps out to the floor. I don't envy him whatsoever. But he was doing it nightly here. And, the action just continues on. Macho jumping back inside, but he's rammed into the corner by the gang, who takes over with clubbering forearms and a big boot, choking Macho down on the mat. Much safer on the knees here. One Man Gang's offense.
Yeah, you could say that.
Gang with a big slam as the future Akeem going to get a 2 count. Savage getting his foot on the bottom rope, but the gang plants a big elbow drop for yet another near fall. And then it's time. Big slam, center ring. The gang setting the Macho Man up for the big 747 splash. But Macho out of the way and the gang going to miss. And then the big man back on his feet, charging Savage in the corner, looking for that King Kong Bundy style avalanche splash, but Macho again out of the way, and the gang misses that one too. As Savage going to fire up now, series of jabs, big elbows, has gang hanging in the ropes. Great spot there by the gang hanging on to the ropes. You don't see that too often from a guy his size. And a running double axe handle, going to send the big man to the outside on the floor, where the Macho Man, here we go, Jesse, you talked about it, up to the top rope, flying double axe handle all the way to the outside, and then back in the ring, Savage going for a slam on the gang. Big mistake. He just can't make that happen. Not enough steroids here at this point in his career. But the gang going to take over. No, the gang going to take back over after that failed slam attempt, picking Savage up in the air with a double-handed choke, then tossing the Macho Man down to the mat. I believe that exact move was one of the old WrestleMania trading cards where the gang had Savage up in the air choking him. If I remember correctly, we used to collect those. Those were good. I have an unopened pack still downstairs.
An unopened pack?
Unopened box. I apologize. Yeah.
Oh, an unopened box, even better.
Yeah.
I actually found, probably wasn't my entire collection. I'm sure I've lost some over the years, sold some, traded some, whatever. But yeah, I just found a bunch of those out in my garage. I think I texted you like a picture of I had them like in a book, that 3x3 or the 9-page, Yeah, I do remember that one, though. He has him up in the double-handed choke, lifting him up over his head.
Yes, so the action goes on and the gang back in control here. In the meantime, though, on the outside, Slick begins to harass the lovely Elizabeth. How dare he, even threatening to hit her with his cane. I thought that was a bit much. And this causes Liz to climb up onto the steps up to the apron, trying to get away from Slick. But that only distracts the referee, Jack Kruger here, who orders Slick away from Miss Liz, and then he speaks with Elizabeth to get down from the apron. And meanwhile, in the background, we see the gang missing a big elbow drop on the Macho Man, but with referee Kruger now busy with Elizabeth, Slick up on the opposite side of the apron, and Savage immediately going after the manager for harassing Elizabeth. And while Macho Man has hold of Slick, the Slickster going to toss his cane into the ring for the one-man gang to use. And the gang does so as he blasts Savage from behind with the foreign object, all of this going on behind the referee's back. Get off the apron, Liz. And with Macho Man down on the mat, the gang repeatedly trying to drive the cane down into him, but Randy keeps rolling out of the way just in the nick of time as the referee turns around, sees gang attempting to use the cane, and disqualifies him in the process. Macho Man going to pick up the fairly quick win here by a DQ. Match only goes 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I wrote bummer on the time and the finish, but we're not done yet with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of hoping for a better finish than that, too, seeing as it was the match leading to the finals. The other semifinalists already had a bye into the finals. You know, what can you do? I do think that one-man gang's use of that cane was just a little excessive. Like, if you had stopped maybe after the third or fourth try instead of going for that fifth or sixth, you could have, continued the match and seen what happened from there.
Yeah,
maybe DiBiase paid him off to take out Macho Man, too.
It very well could have been. I mean, then DiBiase would have had to wrestle the gang, though. And how would that have went? I mean, a couple of UWF alumni there. But yeah, I mean, I talked about that with Gene too. I said, you look at who's left. DiBiase can either fight the gang or Savage in the finals. This match is basically anticlimactic. But at the same time, I mean, you wanted a good, strong finish here with the Macho Man and the big one-man gang. But again, Savage somehow managing to overcome the odds here, luckily escaping with his life. The gang driving the cane down could have done some damage. But immediately after the bell, one-man gang manages to crack Savage again with the cane, so he finally connects after he's disqualified, hits him twice more, sending Savage out to the floor. And as the heels then embrace, Slick and the gang hugging center ring to sulk in their woes, Macho Man recovering on the outside, climbing up to the top rope, leaping off with another flying double axe handle back into the ring, smacking the gang square in the back, causing the gang to stumble forward. And land on top of his manager, Slick, squashing Slick into the mat. I wrote, man, the managers are taking a beating tonight. Just one match after another. Jimmy Hart getting his hair cut. Bobby Heenan being stuck in a match wearing a dog suit and trying to get away from Matilda. And now Slick getting squashed by the one-man gang.
I mean, yeah, no doubt about it. And we still hadn't even got to the next match.
Exactly.
I mean, these heel managers, man, I tell you, I miss this. I kind of wish they would kind of bring heel managers or just managers in general back into wrestling. I mean, I think they are to a degree, but not like it used to be, man.
No, and it was a special era, too. And even though Freddie Blassie had been a manager, Lou Albano had been a wrestler. Lou Albano had been a wrestler. The Grand Wizard had been around wrestling forever. They weren't taking shots in every match. They weren't getting up on the apron and doing all these extra shenanigans like the managers of this era here. Blassie was over the hill. I'm going to get a lot of flack for that for the old school fans out there, but he wasn't taking any bumps. He was done, and rightfully so at that age. But Lou Albano, I mean, the guy would gig, he would cut it, he would blade for you in a heartbeat, but taking bumps wasn't exactly something he was going to do. But man, this era is very special. All the managers out there to make the talent in the match, just enhance everything, and that Slick does here. He takes one for the team, the gang just smashing him into the mat.
Yeah. I mean, they call that era, I think, the golden era of wrestling. I think it was also the golden era for managers as well. And I really mean that too, man.
Oh, absolutely. No, I 100%. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. But I wrote oddly booked finish, a fart in church, if you will. Way too short after teasing me with this awesome match on paper, right? The Macho Man taking on this big monster, the one-man gang, who is one of the best big men for his time. And the only saving grace here is these two will actually have a better rematch upcoming on the next edition of Saturday Night's Main Event. only this time the title going to be on the line.
Looking forward to that one.
As am I, but right now what I'm looking forward to, we're going to see if Bob Uecker can finally catch up with Vanna White. I hear rumors that Uecker has finally found the bracket room. Standing by right now, we're going to go off to Mean Gene Okerlund and Vanna.
I got to tell you, Vanna White, it is exciting. A Ted DiBiase, Randy Savage final here at WrestleMania 4.
I know, it's so exciting. I have to excuse myself and go out to ringside, okay?
All right, Vanna
see you
White.
later.
Wheel of Fortune's Vanna White, thank you. It has been a pleasure working with you. Just absolutely the greatest. Here we go. You saw how it happened. Ted DiBiase getting into the final via a bye. Macho Man Randy Savage over the one-man gang. So that is your final, the one we've been thinking about here on WrestleMania.
Where is she?
Bob Uecker.
She's here. Where is she?
No, Uecker, I got bad news for you. Vanna White just left. She's
They
going
told
out
me she was just here,
Oh,
Gino.
you missed her.
You of all guys, not my buddy. Come on.
Hey, you've
Come
been
on,
going
Gino.
all over this building,
Vanna.
scouring this building for Vanna White. And I'm sorry, pal, I have to tell you this, Bob Uecker. I don't know if she wants to see you.
She wants to see me. She wrote me all kind of letters.
She wrote you letters?
Yes, some guy named Vance White.
No. This is Vanna White from Wheel of Fortune. Bob Uecker, I'm sorry. Let's get back to Gorilla and Jesse. I'm sorry about that, pal. I don't know what to tell you.
So Vanna White excusing herself for the main event, which we now know is the Macho Man taking on the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And you couldn't write this, or I guess maybe you could. No sooner than Vanna White leaves the room that Bob Uecker finally pops into the bracket room to try and meet with her. Bob lets out that he's been corresponding, we talked about this a little bit off air, with a guy by the name of Vance White. Now, I liked where he was going with this joke, but saying that the guy's name was Vance and pointing out that it was a guy in general, I don't know, man. It kind of ruined the whole joke because we know he's been looking for Vanna all night long.
Yeah, just a little bit of lack of continuity there, Bob.
But he's been doing such a good job all night. I'll give him a pass. After that Andre choke, he can do no wrong with me. But still, just a fun night of Uecker searching for Vanna White for the past 3 hours here on the pay-per-view. Will they ever connect? Stay tuned to find out, guys. We won't have to wait too much longer. But right now, Jesse, I know you're ready for this one. It's the penultimate match here on WrestleMania 4. The Tag Team Championship on the line as the WWF Tag Team Champions Strikeforce, Rick Martel and Tito Santana, going to be taking on the team of Axe and Smash, Demolition, with Mr. Fuji in their corner. As the challengers out first here to their awesome theme music, and the crowd just standing there for their entrance, but that's really about it. No real reaction, no response, no movement. They're almost like cardboard figures at this point are the crowd. They don't appear to be making much noise at this point in the night, which is really unfortunate given the match we're about to see for what is perhaps maybe the best non-tournament match on the entire card. Sorry, Matilda.
Yeah, and I don't need to tell you, man, Demolition, one of my all-time favorite tag teams of any era. If you asked me today, I might say Demolition. Tomorrow might be Heart Foundation. I've flip-flopped over the years, but those two are my 1A and 1B by far above every other tag team ever. And dude, like Demolition's music, you're right. Like, I don't know what it was. It was awesome. I mean, most of the wrestlers, I think at WrestleMania 4 didn't even have music yet. And then, Demolition has, that rocking out.
Right. They're starting to develop music for some of the talent here. Jake the Snake debuted his music here at WrestleMania 4. I think Beefcake will have music here by May of 88, if I remember correctly. So they're starting to incorporate more wrestlers, some more of the top stars with theme music at this point. But Demolition, they've had it for a while. They got before they had the lyrics after the Piledriver album came out, they had the instrumental version of this song as well for months beforehand, and that was still pretty damn cool. It matched their character, and you knew when you hit this music hit that somebody was about to get their ass kicked.
Yeah, who sang their theme song? Was that actually like?
Yeah, I believe that was Rick Derringer. No, it was Rick Derringer.
Okay, I never knew. I mean, I guess when I was a kid, I always just pictured like X and Smash were actually singing the words.
Sure, I get that. I used to do that quite a bit with the sitcoms. I would think it was somebody in the show, and I don't know. You look back in hindsight, it's like, well, maybe not. But it was cool, and I agree with you. I think my favorite two teams of all WWF history had to be Demolition and Heart Foundation. They were there at the same time, which is just even awesomer. If that's a word, I don't know if it is or not. But anywho, just going back. Yeah, okay, thank you. And but back and forth, I got a bet. It depends on what month it was of what year. Yeah, I think the Hearts were better then. But then Demolition was better the next month. So, I got to agree with you. Two of my top favorite teams of all time. Absolutely. And Demolition here are going to take on coming out next is the tag team champions, Rick Martel and Tito Santana. But it's amazing to think this time a year ago, it was the Can-Am connection of Tom Zink and Rick Martel. Yeah, they were opening WrestleMania 3, but with quick action and a hot response at the Silver Dome. And here the crowd they're just kind of sitting here. And no knock on the solid team of Strikeforce, but what was fresh and new with the Can-Ams just felt old hat here with the Strikeforce formation. Even though on paper, fundamentally, easily, you got to say the better team is Tito and Martel rather than Martel and Zink. But Strikeforce just never seemed to get over to the level of the Can-Ams. Though again, you couldn't really put together a much better wrestling tag team than Strikeforce.
Yeah, I mean, athletically, like everything about them, you would think on paper that they would have, been one of the great tag teams of the era. And I guess, they were the tag champions, so I'm not taking that away from them. But, I mean, they were never really high up on my list. I guess maybe the longevity just wasn't there to even get behind them. Yeah, I don't know what it was. They just didn't connect with me as a fan, and I was definitely rooting for Demolition in this match. And I will say this, too, to your point. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because, the crowd's just kind of like taking a mental breather. But yeah, the crowd just kind of are like sitting on their hands during this match, and that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I have somewhere in my notes here during this match, I theorized that maybe the crowd is more dead in this match than any other match on the show because they know what's coming next. They know the World Championship match is next, and they're just waiting to get there at this point because we're about 4 hours into this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give them that.
I think it's just poor placement on the card for this. This should have went on way earlier in the show to give it more credit, but it is what it is. And the bell sounds. We're underway, minutes away from history being made here. Again, as quiet as the crowd has been at times tonight, the buzz has never been lower than right now, which is, again, unfortunate. We just mentioned that, but bad placement here, absolutely, as the energy just kind of sucked out of the crowd. I assume waiting for that main event, but things are going to change here pretty rapidly as this match gets going. It's my favorite from each team starting things out. It's Smash and Rick Martel going to start this one as Smash hammering down Martel with those double sledge shots to the crowd's delight. Hey, the heel Smash beating on Rick Martel is what wakes a few people up. I wrote, that could be telling for the baby faces as Smash going to shoot Rick into the ropes, but Martel barreling back with a big crossbody, which Smash catches. Rick Martel, who's a pretty big guy, catches him in midair, but Tito Santana quickly rushing it, drop-kicking Martel down onto Smash, and it all breaks down into a four-way melee from there. The champions getting the better of Demolition, sending X to the floor, and a double clothesline on Smash going to get Strikeforce a 2 count. As Jesse Ventura complains about all the double teaming, Gorilla Monsoon defending it, and Jesse responds, "It's getting too late in the evening to argue with you, Monsoon." So even the body is starting to take its toll on Jesse Ventura, this lengthy program, this lengthy WrestleMania.
Yeah, man, he just doesn't have the energy to argue anymore.
I don't feel like coming up with any more shit.
I think it was towards the beginning of the match as well, and maybe you had already alluded to it earlier, but didn't one of them, probably Gorilla, mentioned, are those suits even legal? Talking about Demolition.
Oh, Demolition, the spikes.
Attire.
Right, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Oh,
We've been wrestling in them for months, I think Jesse said or something.
That it was over a year, Gorilla. You just now noticed that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think at this point in the show, they were both reaching and just trying to find anything to talk about. Pretty obvious in a couple of the matches, I think, late in this, if people really pay attention to the conversation they're having. Strikeforce controlling both of the challengers with arm bars, some quick tags in between, quick spots as well, until Mr. Fuji catching the attention of referee Joey Morella, allowing Smash to pick Santana up in a hot shot-like maneuver. But as they head back towards the ropes, Smash going to run Tito right into a clothesline from Axe on the apron. I don't know if you remember this spot, but I wrote, great spot, and it gives the heels the offense. They take over here.
Yeah, I do remember that, actually. It's one of my favorite moves in the match, or one of my favorite parts, because if you look, and obviously you did, man, that clothesline from Axe was pretty stiff, dude.
It was stiff.
He forced him to the ground.
Yeah, he laid that in there.
There was no joke, but yeah, I do remember, man. That was a pretty sweet part.
Well, Demolition take over from there, and boy, do they ever, double teaming Tito Santana, driving him back into their corner, another WrestleMania card, as Axe tells Smash to give me the boot, ramming Santana into the boot of Smash. Jesse Ventura again sneaking in the obligatory, I bet Tito wishes he was back in Tijuana selling tacos line. Got to get that in. It's WrestleMania after all.
He's not from Tijuana, Jess.
He's not from Tijuana, Jess. Yeah, it's
the 80s. We can talk like that.
Well, he does. I remember prominently the WrestleMania 6 lines, about eating a bad burrito or however that went, and things that may have happened afterwards. Oh, I like that kind of food, Jess, but it doesn't like me. So, but we'll save that for WrestleMania 6, as this will continue for years. Tito was once asked, did it bother him that Jesse Ventura constantly made these jokes, referred to him only as Chico Santana? First of all, I got news for you guys. His real name's not Tito either. It's Merced. So I don't think he cares if he's Tito or Chico or anything in between. And actually, Tito's book is called Don't Call Me Chico. He puts Jesse Ventura over for doing all of this. He said it kept focal point on Tito. People, whether you felt bad for Tito or whether you popped for it or anything in between, Jesse Ventura was talking about Tito Santana, and that was the end game to get somebody over, guys. And so Tito understood that, as did most of the boys in the old times. Everybody now getting butthurt over everything you say. But yeah, I just thought that was cool. Don't Call Me Chico was the name of his book. And people thinking, well, didn't that bother you that he referred to you? No, it was great. It got me over.
Yeah, I mean, Tito's right. What's that saying? No publicity is bad publicity as long as they're talking about you. I don't know if that was right, but it's something along those lines. So yeah, I mean, it was keeping the focal point on him. It was keeping him relevant. I mean, I would say thank you to Jess too, if he was always talking about me during my matches, good or bad.
At least he spent time talking about Tito rather than saying hi to Terry, Tyrell, and Jade again later in the show here. As Axe in control here with a driving power slam, got to get a 2 count here on Santana. Gorilla even referring to the heels here as awesome. He says, they are awesome, Jess. So even Monsoon, the babyface announcer, he can't deny the heels, as we see more cheating and choking behind the referee's back here by Demolition. Smash with a vertical suplex. Shout out to Gordon Soley. Gonna get another near fall on Santana, but Smash verbally not happy with that stinking call. Slow count by the referee, says Smash, as Axe then back inside, telegraphing a backdrop, and Tito gonna lower the boom with an elbow to the back of Axe's head, but Smash wisely coming in and dragging Santana back to the heel corner to prevent the hot tag. How wise of the Demolition tag team, showing they're more than just two big badasses that come in there and kick people's butt and tear them apart. They actually have some tag team skills here. I'm not going to call them Arn and Tully, but that was still a wise move. Smash going in and realizing, I can't allow this hot tag. We've got Tito in trouble, dragging Santana back to their corner.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, maybe they weren't considered ring generals, but they're, maybe some ring sergeants or something very close to it. They know what's going on. They know how to win a tag team match.
Well,
I'll give them props for that.
We're going to have to wait and see here, not very much longer, to see if they can win the big one. Is Axe briefly back on the offense, shooting Tito into the ropes, but Santana comes soaring back with the most beautiful of flying forearms. Great bump by Axe, great shot by Santana, but a shit crowd response, I noted here, as Tito makes that slow crawl to his corner, but nobody hit that flying forearm better, and I don't know that it was ever performed better than in this match right here. Great bump by, again, like I said, by Bill Eadie, Axe of Demolition. But what an awesome spot. The double down, both guys on the mat, looking for that hot tag as Santana. But were you a big fan of the flying forearm?
I mean, Chico can fly, and I remember that forearm from this match. I remember it from a couple Survivor Series eliminations. Yeah, I mean, his forearm, yes. I mean, he did it like no other. I'll give him props for that.
He found a hold that he can make look really good, and he's stuck with it. So kudos to him for that. As both men down on the ground, Axe going to make the tag out first to partner Smash, but Tito finally making the hot tag to partner Rick Martel, and Ricky comes in a house of fire, taking both of the Demolition down, drop kicks for everyone, even a pair of French-Canadian hammers, I wrote. I mean, if Ivan Putski can have the Polish hammer, I suppose Martel can have his own version here. Why not? The French-Canadian hammer, double axe handles across the chest, kind of an odd move for Martel, but it's effective, taking both Demolition down as Martel then looking for, yes, the Boston Crab applied on Demolition Smash, the same move that Martel used to make the Anvil submit to win the titles back in October. Allegedly submit, I should say. Anvil denies that to this day. But yeah, the Demolition are in trouble here. Smash and the Boston Crab. Will it be the same for Demolition here tonight? Well, Smash submit.
I don't know. We're going to have to see. And I'm glad you threw that in about the Anvil, because I was about to come to his aid and say, hey, he never submitted.
Well, it was very odd. They hadn't used that move up until that match, so it made it even more weird when Neidhart
submits. Did they have a true tag finisher?
Well, Martel would whip the guy off, do a drop down. The guy would jump over Martel into a flying forearm often, but not every week. So that was as close as a double team move as they had. But they were trying to get over the Boston Crab there for a while, as well as the finish of the tag team, which again, kind of weird. But yeah, Rick Martel locking it in here. His finisher, we would know that as the model as well in future years. But Axe going to try to rush in and save his partner, but he's cut off by Tito Santana. Referee Joey Morella, though, going to back Tito up. And now Mr. Fuji up onto the apron as well. And it all breaks down from here. Santana rushing back across, blasting Axe with what appeared to be a second flying forearm. I don't know if he meant to do that or not, but Axe taking a bump out to the floor. And now Santana going to go after manager Mr. Fuji over on the apron, hammering him down, driving his face. You referenced that. These managers continue to take a toll. Fuji getting his face driven down into the apron almost too many times for my taste. I almost started feeling bad for Fuji there as the referee trying to separate Tito from Fuji. Meanwhile, the devious one had sent the cane into the ring when Tito first blasted him. And behind the referee's back, Axe picking up the cane and with both hands driving it across the back of the neck of Rick Martel, who goes down hard. Smash rolling on top of Martel as Tito incidentally just happens to shove the referee down, and Morella lands right at the shoulders of Rick Martel on the mat, and the referee makes the 1, the 2, and the 3.
It's over. Here are your winners and new World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champion, Demolition. History made here as part of WrestleMania 4 as Axe and Smash become the new World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions. I don't like the way it happened, though, Jeff.
Well, things do happen in there, Gorilla, and although it looked to be totally illegal, the referee didn't see it. The referee's decision is going to have to stand.
What do you mean, looked to be totally illegal? The guy clobbered him with a cane, Jeff.
That's what I said. It looked to be illegal.
However, it will stay in the record books.
So I'm going to show a little bias here and state that I am happy to say we have new WWF Tag Team Champions. Demolition get the win and the titles. Match goes 8 minutes and 1 second.
And I am happy to say the least. I kind of feel bad for Fuji. He did take a beating over there, but I think a lot of it was that Morella? Was he the referee?
Right.
The referee there, he kind of stayed knocked out for a little long. So Tito's over there just kicking Fuji in the head over and over, and then at one point just picks him up and slams his face into the mat and thinks he's done, and then he kind of looks over his shoulder and says, I guess I got to keep going because the referee's not counting yet.
Well, they hadn't got the spot. Yeah, they hadn't got the spot going. I feel
so he's over there just taking a beating, man.
Right. Yeah. So they just had to keep doing what they were doing because that was their position at the finish of the match, and it just went on far too long. I had a little sympathy there for Mr. Fuji. I've seen other people in the past point that out too, like, geez, how long is Tito just going to beat the crap out of Fuji over there? But he really had no option. That was where they needed to be in order to have Tito's back turned to the pinfall. Like you said, it took a little bit to get there. Nevertheless, we have new tag team champions. As Jesse says, even though it looked to be illegal, we heard that in the soundbite. Gorilla Monsoon confirming that we do indeed have new tag team champions. The decision will stand in the record books, says Gorilla. Demolition begin their first of 3 historic reigns as WWF tag team champions. But did you notice the finish, the pinfall? What a crowd reaction. Now, it wasn't WrestleMania 6 level or anything near that, but after being nearly dead, the crowd rised to their feet and let out a collective pop for the heel Demolition, winning the tag team gold. And heels didn't get responses like that, at least not that loud, and in unison, for that matter, back then. So it shows you just how over and how cool the Demolition tag team were. They transcended being a heel or a face.
Yeah, and I mean, less than a year later, we'll see what happens with that. You know what I mean? Because the crowd did kind of, I'm sure, have a part in that decision. But yeah, man, like WrestleMania 6, I know we're not talking about that right now, but one of the top 5 biggest pops I've ever seen in my life. And I've actually, been in arenas, when Stone Cold's glass shattered, and I'll give him that, man. Like, there's no other pop like that. But that Demolition pop at 6, amazing. And 4, I mean, there were fans like us in the arena, apparently, because, we liked Demolition back when they were still, heels, and apparently some other people thought they were cool as well. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, I feel like they transcended that heel and face genre. They were just there. They were just cool, right? It was cool to like Demolition. They were cool. They looked cool. They kicked ass. I mean, they were one of the first badass tag teams. Obviously everybody's going to throw to the Road Warriors first, but Demolition, and a lot of people call them roadie ripoffs. I never looked at it like that as a kid. Yeah, they both had some spikes. Yeah, they both had some paint, but very different styles in the ring and very different looks overall. So I always loved Demolition. Axe and Smash here, getting their first of 3 title wins. Kudos to that. I'm looking forward to covering that for the remainder of 1988. But this was sort of a resurgence for Bill Eadie, who plays Axe. He was formerly the Masked Superstar, and a whole new level of over for Barry Darsow, the former Crusher Khrushchev here. And by this point in Strikeforce's reign, they just become, I don't know if I want to call it stale, but they were just there. WWF hadn't really done them any favors. They didn't really do anything. Lots of rematches with the Hearts on the house shows, but nothing really going on TV for them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wasn't watching TV, like live TV, watching them back in these times. But I will say, like, as an adult, even now watching it, I could see why, maybe they didn't last. I love Rick Martel, Tito. I'll give him, he's worthy of, his own, respect in the ring. But to me, they're almost just like plain. Like, if I could say that, I don't know what I mean by like cookie cutter, average, athletic guys, and it's just like that didn't get over for me anyway.
And you talk about the cookie cutter. We've talked about the cookie cutter promos of the Young Stallions, the Killer Bees, the Rougeau brothers. They're all the same team, maybe a little different. The Rougeaus are French Canadian. The Killer Bees have striped trunks. They gave them masks at some point to kind of differentiate them a little bit, but at the end of the day, the promos are the same. Hey, we're good guys, and we're going to do the best we can as good guys. And it was kind of more the same with Strikeforce as well. They didn't have that additional heat. They didn't feel like world beaters when they were cutting promos. And I dare say the Bulldogs, I mean, outside of some steroids and a British accent, they too kind of would have fell in that line. But between Dynamite being able to take a few bumps and Davey Boy's insane strength, I mean, they certainly were leaps and bounds, I think, above all the other baby faces here as far as being different. But at the same time, it's just a lot of the same here right now in the WWF in regards to the babyface teams. Now, that's going to change very soon. We've already talked about the Hitman earlier in the Battle Royal. Heart Foundation, yeah, they're going to be on again, off again, but they will be a tag team more often than not over the next several years as baby faces. We know the Rockers are coming in the month of May, so things are going to change here. Some of these other teams better step up or they're not going to be here much longer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, man. The Rockers, let's just get us to Survivor Series 88, man, and then we'll talk again.
Oh, man.
I kid, of course. But no, man, I'm really looking forward to it. Like you said, a lot of tag team. There's going to be a lot changing in that environment, and I'm looking forward to it, man.
And just some quick context, Jesse, before you depart this show. From the Demolition themselves here, Smash has stated that they were told maybe just a couple weeks before the pay-per-view that they were actually getting the straps here, which was commonplace back in the day. They didn't really give you a heads up months in advance of their plans, but certainly you saw it coming. Even the babyface announcers, Vince McMahon, Gorilla Monsoon on TV week after week, putting Demolition over, even worrying for Strikeforce, who were the champions, but they seemed like the underdogs heading into this as far as commentary would have suggested on television all the way leading up to the pay-per-view. And even here, yes, they cheated to win, but they still won the match. They beat Strikeforce in their very first outing against one another. And while Smash had mentioned that, Axe had talked about the finish with the cane because it looked a little stiff there. Now, if you go back, guys, and watch it, you can visibly see Axe essentially trying to break the cane over the back of Rick Martel there, using one hand on each end of the cane, trying to bend it, break it. And you can tell he was putting some force into the cane, but it just wouldn't break. And Axe had stated the cane was meant to break there, which would have made for a great visual for the title change. But instead of using their typical old canes, which were more dried out and ready to break, ready to crack, they were stuck with a brand new cane, and it wouldn't break at all, wouldn't budge. So Axe stating that when he whacked Martel with it, well, it didn't feel so good for Ricky.
That's a cool little tidbit. I didn't know that, about the Demolition finding out just a couple of weeks before. I didn't know about the cane was supposed to break. I guess that would have been a better visual. But yeah, man, that wasn't like your typical working hit with the cane there.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't the old baseball bat.
You could tell
swing.
he followed through. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. He tried to
put some oomph into it.
Yeah. He tried to force the cane through the body of Rick Martel, but also rather than taking that baseball swing that everybody takes when they hit you with the old cane gimmick, he has his hand on opposite ends, trying to force it, like I said, through the body of Martel there. But the decision stands, Jess. We have brand new WWF Tag Team Champions. Looking forward to talking all about that in the weeks and months to come. It's Demolition.
Go Demos, baby.
The Demos will get you. As that's going to finish it up here, man. I appreciate you coming back on the show and closing out another great segment of matches here. Macho Man advancing to the finals, going to be taking on the $1 Million Man in just a couple minutes here on the Grenade Show. We're going to finally find out who the undisputed WWF champion will be. But in the meantime, we've seen our first of two now guaranteed title changes as Demolition win the tag team gold. We know we're going to see new heavyweight champion, whether it will be the Macho Man or Ted DiBiase. Again, just a few minutes away from finding out. But man, I appreciate it. And I thought I picked a pretty good spot on the show for you. We were both huge Demolition fans growing up, one of our favorite teams of all time. And I'm just happy you were here to kind of go back and enjoy this with me.
Oh yeah, man. I hope you're going to put the Demolition theme music on this show before that match or something, man. You have to do it. I'm not telling you what to do, but I would love to hear it when I listen back. But yeah, man, anytime I could get on here and talk about Demolition, any of those guys, this was my favorite era by far. It's always a pleasure, man. Anything I could do to just jump on and, contribute any way I can and relive the good old days, man. I love doing it.
Yeah, and we're getting so close to that really familiar roster that me and you used to play with our G.I. Joes and things of that nature back in the day, because right around the corner in the next couple months, it's the Big Boss Man, it's the Rockers. By the fall, Arn and Tully are going to be here. The Blue Blazers headed in. We've got so many familiar names heading in that's going to be here for the next several years, including Mr. Perfect. Even the Red Rooster going to be making his way in here. So lots of familiar names right around the corner just after WrestleMania 4. Even Sean Mooney in the Event Center about to make its debut. So it's going to be a fun time after WrestleMania 4. I know you're going to be listening to those shows very carefully. Lots of great promos and memories that we have for that. But man, I just appreciate you taking the time out to being a part of both parts 1 and part 2 of the WrestleMania 4 review.
Anytime, brother. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, that was another fun time, and I knew he'd put over our love for Demolition. Congratulations once again, I might add, to the brand new WWF Tag Team Champions. And speaking of the demos, we get our final WrestleMania soundbite, another Coliseum video exclusive here. Craig DeGeorge standing by with Mr. Fuji, and the brand new WWF Tag Team Champions, Axe and Smash Demolition.
All right, thank you. The Tag Team Championship changes hands at WrestleMania 4, Mr. Fuji, to your delight.
Excellent. All the hot training Axe and Smash did, it pays off. It pays off well. Now we are the new WWF Tag Team Champions. That's right, because Master Fuji wanted it. What Master Fuji wants, he gets. And we're the ones that produce. We're the ones that show him. We're the champions.
A team of destiny. You know and everybody else knows. This was the first meeting between Demolition and Strikeforce. We told you, Strikeforce, you couldn't hide forever. All you had to do was put your name on a dotted line, put the gold belts up, and we'll take care of the rest. Well, you signed the contract. That was your first mistake. The second was getting in the ring. But we took care of everything else. We won the match. You'll do the crying, but we're still the champions, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Boy, Craig's voice just ridiculous. Had to be a rib to force this out here. Force Craig to conduct all these interviews. I wrote, where's Lord Alfred when you need him? But we hear Smash utter those very familiar words that we will come to know over the next many months. What Master Fuji wants, Master Fuji gets. And in their very first meeting with Strikeforce, the Demolition win the titles. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. The epic first reign of Demolition begins. But we've still got one more championship match in us here tonight, believe it or not, guys. Match number 16 on the docket. And we are finally here. It's time for the final match in the WWF Championship Tournament. Randy Macho Man Savage taking on the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And in order to do this historical moment proper justice, going to bring back Jammie Ward one more time to close out the night. Jammie, are you ready for the finals of the WWF title tournament?
I am ready to rumble, Ray. Let's do it.
Well, here
we are. I can't say that. That's copyrighted, isn't it?
Copyright, yeah. I don't even know. Oh, I might have to edit that out. As we are finally here, guys, 40 hours later, but we finally made it to the finals of the WWF title tournament, featuring the Macho Man, Randy Savage, with the lovely Miss Elizabeth taking on the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, with no Virgil. But more on that in just a little bit, guys. As we see right now, the presenter of the WWF title belt, the lifestyles of the rich and famous Robin Leach, prancing out, showing off the new Winged Eagle WWF title belt on a red velvet display, which would have been made for a great debut here at WrestleMania, a brand new championship, a new design for a new champion, a new era. It made sense, Jammie. Would have been awesome. But, brother, that doesn't work for me, dude. Hulk Hogan just had to be the first one to wear this fucking belt. So he actually wore this to the ring at the main event, knowing he was going to lose it 10 minutes later. I presume just so he could say that he wore it first. To quote the Gorilla, what a piece of work.
As one-time Gorilla is correct. I shouldn't say that. I'm a Gorilla Monsoon guy too. More Jesse, but
I love Gorilla.
But I like Gorilla. You know, the catch is when Gorilla did the Spectrum Wrestling with Dick Graham.
Yeah,
I despised it because he replaced my man Cal Rudman.
Killer Cal, back to the interview, doing the interviews.
Killer Cal, him and Dick Graham were my home team.
I think Killer Cal signed his own demise for various reasons, but that's just my theory.
Yeah, but that's another story for another day. I didn't like Monsoon when he took over there, but when he became a lead announcer for like the Wrestling Challenge, and a lot of these other house shows, I enjoyed Gorilla, and I liked him all the way up the rest of the way. As I told you before, I got my first ever tickets through Gorilla Monsoon.
Right? Yeah.
I always liked him. I just didn't like him replacing my man Cal Rudman.
I get that. Yeah, I got to tell you, man. Cal Rudman was quite the character, and had the whole music industry, at his fingertips. But yeah, it's the Dick Graham Cal Rudman duo. They would have been interesting. Maybe we could have got a B-roll. That would have been nice if there would have been a secondary commentary team. We could have flown them in and had them do a match here at WrestleMania 4. That would have been something else. Maybe put Bob Uecker in there with them. I don't even know what would have happened. As speaking of the Uke, out next is the guest ring announcer. It is Mr. Baseball Bob Uecker. Poor Bob never did find Vanna, But it won't be long now, Jamie. If only had thought of this 3 hours ago. Just introduce her, Uke. As out next, he does introduce the guest timekeeper, the lovely Vanna White, who was surrounded by security down that. Did you see the security? I mean, Elizabeth had security, but Vanna really had security here on the way to the ring.
Yeah, they were taking no chances of anybody reaching out and causing a wardrobe malfunction on Vanna.
Yeah, everyone making sure to greet the Donald. Did you notice Robin Leach, Bob Uecker, Vanna White, everybody before they got in the ring, they had to go over and greet Donald Trump.
Well, it was his Trump Plaza, kind of.
Kind of. Yeah, I wonder, you think they were obviously told to do that. As Vanna White, though, with a nice kiss on the cheek of Uecker, who sells it with a very bashful glow, may have even made a mess on himself based on his physical orgasmic response, but just great sell job by Uecker. But he finally meets Vanna. He finally gets his kiss. All is right in the world, Jamie. The 3 storylines everyone came for here tonight. We got the return of Matilda. Bob Uecker finally meets Vanna White. And now the big one. We're about to crown the brand new, undisputed WWF champion.
All 3 of them dealt with hot women. Vanna White, Matilda, and Elizabeth.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Ivana Trump. But no, she left after the beefcake match. She finally had enough. I guess Donald let her slide for the remainder of the night because she never returns, not even for the title belt match. Unbelievable. As we see the $1 Million Man make his way down to the ring, no Virgil in sight after that suplex on the floor, but Dibiase instead, once again accompanied by his hired gun, Andre the Giant, which could spell danger for the Macho Man and Elizabeth. Because remember, guys, it was Andre ringside that played a big part in Dibiase beating Savage by countout at the recent Saturday night's main event. And a countout here would give Ted the title.
Right. Ted doesn't have to get to 1, 2, 3.
So fun little story that they told us at Saturday night's main event that we didn't even think was useful, but here it is. It all goes together. Out next, though, is indeed the Macho Man, along with the lovely Liz in matching white attire for their 4th and final entrance of the night. As Gorilla again reminds us that this is, in fact, a happening, Jamie.
Definitely happening. And Elizabeth is in her number 2 favorite outfit for myself.
I'm going to go along with you. I'm right with you on these, numbering these outfits.
Blue was number 1, white was number 2.
I'm going to go with black number 3 just because it was black, kind of cool. And then, we'll put pink in last place.
Pink
I didn't really care for the pink one. But I don't know why we're discussing that. We'll leave that for Joan Rivers. And the referee here, the same reason this whole thing started. So we talked about Joey Morella reffing the Hogan-Andre match. The referee here sticks out to me even more. It's Dave Hebner. At least let's hope this is Dave Hebner, right? Because it could be Earl or the imposter Hebner. Wouldn't it have been something if they did the twin Hebner spot here again at WrestleMania? I mean, seriously, who booked Dave Hebner into this match?
Even my dad, who didn't watch every single week, but knew what was going on, said, wait a minute, isn't that the same referee that screwed Hogan out of the title to begin with?
Now, let me put some context on you for this, Jamie, really quick, too, because you might not know this. By WrestleMania here, based on the video footage they were showing, they're trying to hide the fact that the twin Hebner angle ever even took place. The story they're telling by this point is, well, a referee was paid off. So they're not even saying it was a Hebner. But you'd have to think they should at least look into things, right? It could have been Dave, but yeah. But I don't know if you were finished with your father's story. I do apologize, but I wanted to let you know.
No, I was just going to say, even my dad picked up, wait a minute, this was the guy that was in the ring, whether it was the one that got pulled out or the one that was in there originally. If it is the one that got pulled out, why are you taking that chance again? My dad picked up on this. So not great idea of who to put as the referee here. They probably would have been better off throwing Pat Patterson in there, like WrestleMania 1.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, yeah, good call.
We're having some kind of special guest referee for the match.
Right. Well, the only thing I can come up with is the story goes that Randy Savage loved Dave Hebner as a referee. He loved his count. There was a great authority the way his hand slapped the mat. And Savage was the one that requested Hebner be the referee in the Dragon match at WrestleMania 3. So the only thing I can come up with here is maybe he made that request again, whether it makes sense or not having Dave Hebner involved in this one. It's the only thing I can come up with. as the bell sounds and away we go. Quick collar and elbow tie-up sees DiBiase back Savage into the corner and look for a cheap shot, but the Macho Man blocking it and delivering an elbow between the eyes of the $1 Million Man. As Teddy stumbles back, though, Macho coming after him, but is immediately tripped up by Andre the Giant on the floor. I wrote, wow, right out of the gate, we see how this one's going to go.
Well, we know this isn't going to be, and I knew, because we were approaching the 4-hour mark here, it wasn't going to go a 30-minute Ricky Steamboat match here, but we knew it was going to be pretty quick. And you got to get the mandatory spots in as soon as you can.
Well, they did tease at the beginning of the show when they announced the time limits for the tournament that the finals would be to a positive finish, no time limit. But again, like you said, it wasn't going to be a 30-minute match with Ricky Steamboat, because, well, nowadays we know that pay-per-views and closed circuit are blocked off by the hour or the quarter hour even. And of course, it was slated to go 4 hours. But also, I'm pretty sure that this is not the place to do a 30-minute match right now at the end of this event. I don't care how good it is.
While, myself and everybody else where I came back to life during this match. Most people were either standing on their feet or, cheering and everything. There were a lot of tired people. That was forced adrenaline by that point. Yeah. It was a long night.
But, the story being told right now is right out of the gate, Andre the Giant interfering, tripping the Macho Man just seconds into the match, letting you know that that's going to happen time and time again. As Dave Hebner, he didn't see the interference, but he warns Andre anyway, as the crowd already getting wise to this, beginning to chant, Hogan, Hogan. Many fans even standing up and looking towards the aisleway, but no Hulkster. I wrote, F him, dude. So this crowd already trying to tell the story of things to come.
Yeah, we all knew what was going to happen. Most fans in there knew exactly how this match was going to end. Even my dad knew how this match was going to end.
Well, I wrote, let's get the focus back on the Macho Man, as clearly the fans, Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder, can clearly already see what's coming around the corner, and including your father, the casual fan, as Macho and DiBiase going to trade hammerlocks from here. Savage landing a shoulder tackle is Macho off the ropes a second time, where he is again tripped up by Andre the Giant. As DiBiase trying to take advantage but missing an elbow drop, Macho Man popping up off the mat, threatening Andre as the fans once again chant for Hulk Hogan. DiBiase, though, finally gaining control, left-handed clothesline, barely gets him a 2. Then Teddy looking for a sunset flip. Just looked really weird watching the $1 Million Man trying to perform a sunset flip here, a heel with a sunset flip spot, but Savage, he blocks it with a fist to the bridge of his $1 Million nose.
Yeah, but DiBiase was, and he always proclaimed he was a great wrestler.
I'm not denying that. I love DiBiase wrestling.
He would know all this stuff. In other words, what I'm trying to say is it would be unrealistic for him to do a sunset flip, even though it is usually a babyface move and not a heel move.
Well, we've seen heels try it, or at least try that pinfall roll through, and the babyface blocks it. So I'm not saying it's never happened. I just don't believe I've ever seen DiBiase do this in the heel roll, and it just looked very vulnerable. But it was a great spot for where it was at in the matchup. It's Macho's turn now to land a clothesline, which gets him a near fall on a 2 count. Is DiBiase going to back off? Discussing strategy now with Andre the Giant over in the corner. And the talk, it apparently works. Is DiBiase back on top? But only briefly. Is Macho Man going to duck a clothesline and land a running elbow before landing a patented leap over the top rope and the big neck snap? Always loved that spot. But the bump here, tremendous from DiBiase. Randy Savage grabbing DiBiase by his hair, running across the ring, leaping over the top rope, dropping DiBiase, neck snap across the top rope. DiBiase taking an awesome backflip bump. I wrote tremendous.
This is why DiBiase should have been NWA champion and UWF champion and WWF champion.
Oh my God, DiBiase is a babyface or heel. He was great at both. I've been covering his babyface run with Roman in the UWF right now, but man, you can't deny his heel run either. And just underestimated is DiBiase in regards to not his wrestling ability, but his bumping ability as well.
I felt like I was the only person in the crowd rooting for DiBiase in this match.
Wow, okay.
The crowd was solidly into Macho Man.
Well, admittedly, as was I. I was a big Macho Man fan, at least during this period. Not so much the Macho King era, but that's another story for another day. As Savage quickly rushing back in with a big high knee, sending the $1 Million Man going over the top rope and out to the feet of Andre the Giant on the opposite side. Macho going to try to capitalize, immediately climbing to the top rope, looking for that patented flying double axe handle out to the floor. But this is a great sight here. We see Andre the Giant standing in the way of Ted DiBiase, basically daring Savage to jump off the top rope. Andre's body working as a protective shield for the $1 Million Man. And Macho Man going to think the wiser and climb down, but great storytelling here.
Yeah, Andre's a much better bodyguard than Virgil.
Yeah, totally eclipsing Ted DiBiase.
Right, and even though we know that Andre's not in the best of health here, that's still an intimidating sight if you want to look at it kind of in real life. You want to come off and jump down, and here's this 7'4" guy in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just think about it for a minute. Andre's standing there daring, telling Savage, come on. And even the Macho Man, the crazy, wild Macho Man says, maybe not, brother, As a Savage going to climb down, but he finally has enough of all of Andre's interference. Now, mind you, the Giant did nothing illegal by simply standing there, but Macho has had enough of all the chicanery, and he goes over and speaks with manager Elizabeth up on the apron. And just like that, off she goes, running in her high heels. God bless her. Elizabeth apparently heading back to the locker room. But I found this funny as Elizabeth, she doesn't even get all the way down the ring steps before the crowd begins popping. They already know what's coming next. And we've seen it twice before. We saw it in October, and we saw it more recently just a few weeks ago on Saturday night's main event on NBC. But we'll save that for those who don't know. It's coming in just a couple minutes. You know what? Let me ask you, what did you and your dad think when Elizabeth went running backstage? Did you know what was coming next?
My dad knew what was coming next.
Okay. Well, I knew it was a foolish question, but I had to ask anyway. It seemed like the entire crowd knew what was coming next. And it wasn't even when Elizabeth started going up the aisle. I mean, literally, she hadn't even came all the way down the steps and the crowd was already popping. Like they knew what was going to happen now. As meanwhile, in the action, DiBiase attacking Savage from behind, planning him with a trifecta of awesome $1 Million fist drops. I always love those. The fans again chanting for Hogan, Hogan, as Gorilla and Jesse have to pretend they're the only ones in the arena that have no clue where Elizabeth went. But it doesn't take long to find out, guys, as mere seconds later, Elizabeth returns with Hulk Hogan by her side. As the fans do erupt, Jamie, lots of noise here for the Hulkster.
Oh, it was deafening in the convention hall when Hogan came out. Whether we like Hogan or not, big picture from what we know about him, Hogan was still over in 1988.
Oh, yeah, I'm not blind to that. I'm not somebody that dislikes something and tells my own version of it. I can sit here and put somebody over all day for what they've... You got to understand, I don't know how many people I've had to defend Hulk Hogan to online, and it kills me because you've got me defending Hulk Hogan, but, there's some people just delusional as to what he did for the business. Even Dave Meltzer is going to tell you what he did for the business. But, there's just some people that just see things their way, and that's just the way it is, whether it's fact or not. But I see what you're saying here. I'm not a Hulkamaniac, but I can see what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, the way I wanted this tournament to work out when I saw the seeding and everything, and yes, I heard the leak of Savage winning, or DiBiase originally winning, then they changed it to Savage. But I was hoping that when we got to One Man Gang and Savage in the previous round, that both of them would get counted out.
Oh my God! What a fart!
DiBiase,
what heel
DiBiase exactly would back his way in to the championship without ever actually beating someone to get it.
Wow. Yeah, that would have been, I don't know how that classic booking
that's
that would
have been. That's what I was
been.
hoping for, but I was an amateur booker in my early 20s, and I still am today in my late 50s.
Well, we're gonna close out the show at that point with Demolition and Strike Force, if that's, oh my goodness. But yeah, maybe, well, Euchre wouldn't even have never found Vanna White if that was the case. Poor Euchre. That's the worst part of it all.
That's a good point. Maybe they would have found each other backstage earlier.
It's possible. As Hulk Hogan now arrives ringside, pulling himself up a chair, foreshadowing things to come. Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't stop by to say hi to Donald Trump like everybody else who's come out here. But the Hulkster going to be a good little boy and merely watch on as a spectator, at least for now. As Hogan going to ham up his return to the ring, DiBiase inside the ring working a chin lock and then hammering away on the Macho Man. DiBiase looks bothered, though, by the Hulkster's arrival, as does Andre the Giant, who is standing across the ring on the opposite side. And speaking of the Giant, As DiBiase distracts referee Dave Hebner, Andre gonna pull the Macho Man out to the apron in hopes to work him over. But around comes Hulk Hogan, the Hulkster, running full force around the ring, blasting Andre with a hard forearm shot to save the Macho Man, who is then able to climb back inside the ring. But DiBiase cuts Savage back off with a clothesline and an elbow drop, getting himself a 2 count in the process. The $1 Million Man stays on top, vertical suplex, gut-wrench suplex. Also both get DiBiase a couple of 2 counts. Teddy then going up to the top rope, but he's met by Randy Savage, who slams him off. And the Macho Man immediately rushing to the top rope, looking to hit that quick, patented flying elbow drop. This is the same sequence he used to beat Butch Reed in the first round. Slams DiBiase off, goes straight up top for the elbow, but DiBiase rolling out of the way. The Macho Man misses the elbow. You don't see that every day. Not just Macho missing the elbow, but a heel rolling out of the way.
Yeah, well, that's to give, DiBiase respect that he's a thinky man.
Yeah, definitely gives him more credibility as a main eventer by being able to do such a thing, because we just did not see that very often. DiBiase, though, with Savage down, waiting for the Macho Man to get up, and the $1 Million Man locking in his brand new finisher, debuting it here today, the Cobra Clutch Hold, which he aptly calls the $1 Million Dream. As they get close to the ropes with the hold, Macho Man may have a chance to catch a break, grab hold of that top rope, but Andre getting involved, swatting Savage away, getting the attention of Dave Hebner. And while Hebner argues with the Giant, Hulk Hogan, gonna sneak in from behind with the steel chair, brother, and blasting it across the back of the $1 Million Man. Down goes DiBiase. Needless to say, Teddy immediately releasing the $1 Million Dream, collapsing to the mat. Both men now down as the Hulkster slyly scoots back out of the ring and rests his arms and chin on the apron as if he's done nothing wrong. I wrote, typical Hulk Hogan. I feel like this isn't far off from the real persona of Terry Bollea.
The highlight of the broadcast was Jesse going off on him after he does this. I told you, Monsoon!
Oh, yeah, just classic Jesse. I mean, if Hogan ever gave him any reason, to tell it like it was, this was certainly it. I can't say unprovoked. We've seen Andre do some things during this match, but at this point in time, Hogan taking advantage with Hebner's back turn, blasting DiBiase with a steel chair, a little revenge from earlier tonight, I guess. And with both men down, it looks like the Macho Man, the first to begin to stir. Again, Savage making the ascension to the top rope. And this time, he delivers it. It connects. Yes, the patented flying elbow drop onto the $1 Million Man. And the Macho Man making the cover. He gets the 1, the 2, and the 3. We have a brand new, undisputed WWF champion, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Match goes 9 minutes and 17 seconds.
And it was a good 9 minutes and 17 seconds.
It wasn't bad.
For the first time in my life, I got to see a new champion crowned live.
And you got to see a full tournament. You got to see a little bit of everything.
And I got to see a full tournament, a great tag team match. I got to see the Honky Tonk Man.
Matilda's return. Come on, don't forget the reason you went.
I love me some Matilda.
Okay.
She was my number 2 female for the evening. Elizabeth, Matilda, and Vanna.
Okay. What about Peggy Sue? Where does she fit in there?
I like Peggy Sue, too. But
I'm a Peggy Sue fan myself.
Actually, I think Sherry looked better with the wig than without the wig.
I'm going to go with that. Although some of her costumes without the wig were far better. Randy Savage scoring the win, the brand new WWF champion. And of course, it's the Hulkster, not Robin Leach. I don't even know what they brought him out here for. Hulk Hogan presenting Randy Savage with the championship belt. So last year, it was Randy Savage losing his Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 3 in that history-making classic confrontation against Ricky Steamboat. Fast forward 1 year later, and history did indeed beckon the Macho Man as he captures his first WWF Championship belt. Congrats go out to the Macho Man as the Hulkster comes in with his chair to fend off the disgruntled heels at ringside. And then Hulk gonna celebrate with a brand new power couple of Randy and Liz, holding their hands high, Elizabeth with tears of joy in her eye. Overwhelmed with the entire story here, I would have to think. Her real-life husband capturing the world title.
3 years after making $35 a night in Memphis. Life is good.
Yeah, and I don't know the story. I've been covering that.
Maybe $50 a night.
Well, you're being kind, I think. But yeah, absolutely. Randy Savage not even on TV right now in the Memphis territory in '85. So I don't know what the hell was going on right before he came. But he made a good call and he made a good jump here to New York. I'd have to say, like you said, who would have known 3 years later he'd be not only in the main event of WrestleMania, but the WWF champion, the man who replaces Hulk Hogan, at least for a year.
Yeah, and if I couldn't have DiBiase as champion, I had no problem with Macho Man winning the belt here.
So Hogan comes in, and I'll give him this much credit, though. He had to make the grand entrance for the match. He had to be involved in the finish. He had to hand the belt over to the Macho Man. But at least during the introduction, Fink's intro of Savage as the new WWF champion, at least Hulk left the ring for a minute to allow Savage to bask in the ambiance, so to speak.
I'm sure Vince had to tell him to jump out of the ring for that moment also.
I believe so. I'm totally, this was not a Hogan decision, I don't think, because he literally jumps out of the ring. As soon as Fink makes the announcement, back comes Hulk Hogan to celebrate with the Macho Man hoisting the manager, lovely Elizabeth, up onto the shoulder of Randy Savage in a true sign of affection and appreciation for his lovely valet. A memorable picture in wrestling history as we conclude WrestleMania 4.
And that's the beginning of the Mega Powers.
It is indeed. Well, technically, I mean, they formed many months ago, but this is really, we heard the term Mega Powers a few times, but this is truly where they really form. This is where they become a unit.
Right, and by the end of the year, we're going to get...
Lust in the Eyes?
Yeah, we're going to get Lust in the Eyes. Yes, we're going to get the match... Oh, no, that's a year away. Never mind. I thought we were getting a match in the movie, but that's an 89. I'm jumping way ahead.
Well, that's okay. I hope to get there someday.
But this is the beginning of Lust in the Eyes.
Well, things here, originally the story goes DiBiase was supposed to get the WWF title, and it didn't really go as initially planned. I'd say that this was much better, a better decision for everyone, however. So I got to say thank you to the Honky Tonk Man who kind of started this entire domino effect. But think about it, Jamie. Last year, this time, DiBiase was in the quickly failing UWF promotion, getting ready to be owned by Crockett Promotion. Fast forward, though, a year later, and he's in the main event of WrestleMania 4. I'd say whether he won the title or not, he's a winner either way.
Yeah, all thanks to the American Dream, baby, not being a Ted DiBiase man.
Well, we've known that for many years, at least going back to 1981.
Maybe even 1980, as we kind of investigated.
Very, very possible. But I'd say their match at Saturday night's main event just a month prior was better. From a wrestling standpoint, a much better match. And they'll continue to have matches, fun matches, throughout the course of the spring and summer here, DiBiase and Savage. This was so loaded up, though. It was like a dog and pony show. Lots of shenanigans going on with Hulk and Andre. Like you said, we knew it wasn't going to go long, so it was what it was. And they told a story. They didn't have time to do a whole lot of wrestling here. Great bumping by DiBiase, though. And kudos to Randy Savage. Great sell job. And the Mega Power storyline, like you said, it really kicks off right now. And even though Hogan's about to go away, we'll have this visual of these three in the ring etched in our memory banks for the months to come.
Yeah, but we're going to get, this goes to SummerSlam, correct?
We'll get the tag team match.
With the tag team match, okay.
Yes.
And Jesse can't believe he saw Elizabeth in a swimsuit.
Well, hey, man, it was, you take what you can get back there in 1988. Worked
Very
for me.
true.
But wow, man, it took a while, but we finally got there. I mean, 4-hour event and then 7 hours here on the show. But we got a brand new WWF champion, the Macho Man Randy Savage, as Gorilla Monsoon concludes this epic event by mentioning that he has goosebumples, Jess, up and down his back.
Well, he is a gorilla after all, so he can't have, goose pimples.
I guess not. But yeah, what a way to close the show. The Macho Man, what a visual. Randy Savage, to get that still photo of Savage hoisting Elizabeth up on his shoulder to celebrate. Hulk Hogan pointing to the new power couple of the Macho Man and Liz. What a fun night overall here at WrestleMania 4. You got to take the good with the bad. If I could eliminate a few things to make this thing a little longer, a little shorter, I would. But in all, making this a two-parter, it's been a fun time. Part 1 flew by. I went back and listened to it, got a lot of great feedback about it. Had one of the patrons say, fastest 4 hours of his life. He really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I like these shows that we put on anyway, Jamie, but I got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed the the first part, and I know we're going to enjoy this one too when it comes out later this week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I enjoyed hearing Gene Jackson, who exactly wasn't raised on the WWF, giving his opinions on some of the stuff. And then your brother was just awesome. I love hearing guys that are just real wrestling fans giving their opinions on what's going on.
Yeah, it's always fun. I mean, he knows how things operate, but he's also just a really big fan, and we can always go back to our memories together, collective memories of The Ultimate Warrior or Demolition or just any of the talent, really, and some of the things that we recall. So it's always fun getting all these different takes and things. And, of course, you being there front and center for this event made it all the more special. Jammie, want to thank you again for being a part for both parts of the WrestleMania IV review.
As I always say, Ray, it's my honor, my pleasure to be on with you anytime.
And wow, what a fun night in general, guys. Got to thank Jammie Ward, Gene Jackson. Got to thank my brother Jesse for joining us once again this time around. Part 2 of the WrestleMania IV review. I didn't want to refer to this as the definitive edition, much like WrestleMania 3. But I feel like after we broke it down, I think, yeah, we can call this the definitive edition of WrestleMania IV, the review, because I don't think we left any stone unturned. Lots of great feedback last time around. Hope you guys enjoyed this one too, but we're not done yet. As we conclude the pay-per-view, we're going to go off to a little segment I like to call Break It Down.
Break it down!
All right, we're going to be breaking down the match results here because we walked in with a potential 18 matches. Now we wind up getting 16 of those. Of course, 2 buys in the tournament. And in the Battle Royal, I guess you could call it a screw job, but it's a Battle Royal. There really are no rules. There really are no friends. Now that leaves the remaining 15 matches on the show. 9 of them feature pinfalls, which means 6 of them end in schmozzes. That means 40% of the show ended in non-finishes, disqualifications, countouts, and that epic draw. Then analyzing the show, only 2 of the first 8 matches featured clean finishes, and 2 of the last 8 matches featured clean finishes. So once again, eliminating the Battle Royal, with also featured some chicanery. Looking at the 15 quote-unquote normal matches on the show, only 4 of the 15 matches featured clean finishes. Basically a quarter of the entire card. So, needless to say, this was peak Vince McMahon refusing to allow people to do jobs, even on pay-per-view, even at WrestleMania. But you gotta figure 16 matches over 3 hours and 45 minutes, give or take. That averages out to 14 minutes a segment. And you factor in all the backstage interviews, the intermission, the Hogan-Andre video, Jesse Ventura posing, Rick Rude and Jake getting 20 minutes of TV time. It comes to even less than that for the remainder of the card. Maybe, at best, 12 minutes per segment. So at least it wasn't like they were having any long, drawn-out segments. It's more just there were so many. As I offer you now my closing thoughts on the entire WrestleMania IV event. Granted, it was a long and at times tedious show to get through, and it can be draining watching anything that runs 4 hours straight through. This was no different, guys. And I'm not going to lie to you. It took me 4 sittings to get through the entire show while I was taking notes and doing research. And at the end of those 4 sessions, I was tapped out each and every time. Now, much like Jammie, I thought the tournament format sounded good on paper. But to me, many of the matches in the tournament lacked proper backstory to generate any heat, like, say, a MURACO Bravo in the first round. Now, the crowd, well, they didn't help matters, of course. Still not happy with that whole high roller thing, but at the same time, the booking didn't always give the fans a reason to help matters. So while that whole high roller thing around ringside hurt the fan reaction overall, I thought the fans, they still made enough noise to know that they were real fans out there, real wrestling fans out there as well. And you can call me biased, but I'll never really completely dump on this show, as lots of big things happened here. And it takes place in the midst of the Hulkamania era. Honestly, it's the beginning of that 88 through 1990 stretch of familiarity with a lot of the same talent and that upgrade in production. Walking into this, we were guaranteed one new champion tonight and we wound up with 2 brand new tag team champions, Demolition, and of course a new era for the WWF Championship with the Macho Man Randy Savage and the lovely Miss Elizabeth here in 1988, leaving the Honky Tonk Man right now the longest reigning champion for some time to come here. As Hulk Hogan, for all intents and purposes, now off to film No Holds Barred, so his appearances here on WWF TV will be sporadic at best until later this summer. In the WWF, they were never accused of having the greatest quote-unquote wrestling shows, but the emotions were there as they told the story of the Macho Man fighting his way through all the adversity. And let us not forget the true MVPs of this show, not just the Macho Man and the lovely Liz, but how about the amazing commentary all night long from Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura? I'd say there's more memorable lines out of this show from Gorilla and Jesse than maybe any of the events they've ever done. And then factor in Bob Uecker. The Uke returns and knocks it out of the park once again. If Uke hit a home run at WrestleMania 3, this was surely a grand slam at WrestleMania 4. And as I finish reminiscing, I got to go back through the different times in my life watching this show. As a kid, I loved it. 4 hours of WWF wrestling? You can't beat that. Now, as a teenager, I'd skip through the tape a little. Maybe a little Rude Jake, fast forward a little Hulk Andre. And as an adult, I avoided this show because after the Battle Royal, I found myself turning it off more often than not, to be honest with you, because I knew there was another 3.5 hours before the big payoff. So yes, to answer your question, I'm fully aware that this show isn't for everyone, but there's a bias here that I just can't shake. I will always remember this show fondly, even if it wasn't the best. And maybe not as fondly as a WrestleMania 3 or WrestleMania's 5 through 7 era, but it's still a hell of a fun night with all the wrestlers that I grew up on. And that'll do it, guys. That concludes, I guess, what we'll now call the definitive edition of the WrestleMania 4 review. Part 2 now in the books. For those who missed Part 1, go back and give it a listen. Don't be intimidated by the 4-hour tag there. Listen at your leisure, pick it up and put it down as you see fit. But I guarantee you it's 4 hours of enjoyment with the same guys you heard right here this time around. As that's going to do it, we're going to wrap things up right here. And unlike the week we quote-unquote took off in between Parts 1 and Part 2 of the WrestleMania 4 review, that was an entire week of research, recording with different guests, splicing it all together. Lots of editing, lots of work went into this show. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. But again, hopefully it gave everybody a little additional time to listen to that big 4-hour Part 1 episode. But also, I want you to know, even though there wasn't a new episode, I was working diligently to get this one out. And that said, I'm spent, guys. This was a ton of work. And after any good WrestleMania review, I think I have truly earned a week off from the grenade. So next week here on the program, look for a special, we'll call it a bonus show here in regards to the WrestleMania 4 review. And I'll be back in 2 weeks' time to continue on our path through 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. But just because we're taking a week away from the grenade does not mean there's going to be any downtime on any of the other programs here on the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. So technically, no, I'm really not taking a break, just from the grenade for 1 week only, guys. Hey, even Vince gave his boys 3 weeks off after this one. So in the meantime, I encourage everybody to stop over to WrestleCopia.com. Check out a lot of the other great podcasts we have going right now. There's absolutely something for everyone there to listen to. And another reminder to follow me on social media for all the latest goings on here at WrestleCopia. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. Also, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. Over 11,000 followers right now on Facebook and counting. And once again, if you really enjoyed these WrestleMania 4 reviews, you want to keep hearing shows like this continue on, I greatly encourage everybody to join that $5 all-access tier over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. An insane amount of gifts for just $5. And it's your support, your $5, that enables me to keep shows like the Wrestling Memory Grenade and all of the other great podcasts over there at WrestleCopia up and running. So we greatly appreciate your support. And hey, if you get a minute, stop on over to Apple or your favorite podcast streaming platform and leave us a 5-star review and tell them why you like this show. I'd be happy to give you a shout out right here on the Grenade. And all right, with all of that said and done, it's time to close up shop here this week. And we'll be back here on the Grenade before you know it. But until then, this is Ray Russell saying, from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'll see you next time. Don't miss it. Be there!
While we're waiting for the hookup here, Gorilla, I want to say hi to Terry, Tyrell, and Jade back in Minnesota.
Terry, Tyrell,
and Jade.
Hey, how about getting your foot off my shoulder?
Hey!